Moreover, it was even on an airless half-plane that was devoid of any magic elements and filled with dead silence. However, the difference between the dragons and the Titan Empire was that they had richer and more treasures, and the varieties also differed. Unlike the dragons, the Titans weren't that passionate about glittery, shiny objects. Hence, there were practically no treasures along the lines of gold coins, jewels, and magic crystals. Treasures like elemental crystals and laws of nature origin crystals, on the other hand, were a lot more abundant. After a bout of feverish collection, Meng Lei's wealth had spiked by 25.9 million laws of nature origin crystals. There are so many laws of nature origin crystals here. There are much more here than what the Dragon God Empire had. Meng Lei didn't find this out of the norm after a moment's thought, however. Heaven's Vault continent had experienced a total of 5 eras: the Fairy era, the Titan era, the Beast People era, the Colossal Dragon era, and the current era where all 4 races coexisted. The Titans had ruled during the Second Era. Hence, they had been around for much longer than the Dragon God Empire. Naturally, their heritage would also be a lot deeper and richer. Adding this to the previous 23.51 million, my wealth has reached 49.41 million laws of nature origin crystals. This is a pretty big windfall. Meng Lei was in a fantastic mood. I'll collect some more. The useful ones, the useless ones. I'll collect them all. Lastly, Meng Lei came to the area where special items were kept. There was an astonishing number of special items there, and they mostly consisted of animal bones, remains, animal teeth. The Titans revered violence and loved collecting their prey's teeth and skulls as mementos after their conquests. It was more than normal for there to be so many animal bones here. What rich wind elemental power of divinity energy fluctuations. It's another item from a true god. This tooth is so sharp. Alright, I'm taking it. What a huge skull. It's probably 10,000 feet tall. How big must its original form have been? This is... A 3 to 4 meter long golden ant sat in front of him. It gave off rich metal elemental power of divinity energy fluctuations. If not for the fact that it had lost all signs of life, it could almost pass off for a living creature. It's a golden god-slaying ant. Meng Lei recognized the golden ant at first glance because it simply looked too alike to Little Gold. It was practically an enlarged version of Little Gold. Although it was dead, the golden god-slaying ant still gave off extremely strong power of divinity energy fluctuations. It was definitely a golden god-slaying ant of the half-deity level. It's probably the golden god-slaying ant that met its demise during the catastrophe that time. Meng Lei stored the golden god-slaying ant carcass away and continued his observation of the items there, upon which he then noticed quite a few other handicapped golden god-slaying ants. They were either missing an arm, a leg, tentacles, or a head. Evidently, they had all experienced a fierce battle when they were still alive. What's this? Meng Lei came up to a pair of wings. The wings appeared to be forged from silver-colored metal alloys. White streams of light shone on the surface, and it gave off a sharp and holy aura. Meng Lei casually touched them. A buzz rang out, and then he felt a mild pain coming from his finger. He had actually gotten a cut. What the heck? It's so sharp. Disbelief filled Meng Lei. Not only was his divine body that of a pinnacle-level half-deities, but he had even assimilated the god-slaying rat and 100-armed giant bloodlines and enhanced his divine body's defenses to an astonishing level. Simply put, his divine body was currently extremely tough and durable. Despite the 15 Titan half-deities bombarding him with attacks previously, they simply couldn't leave even a scratch on him. From this, one could tell just how durable his body was. Yet a light press against one of the wing's feathers had cut him. Just how sharp were these wings? Right at this point, a system notification abruptly rang out. Ding! Dropped item detected. Will you pick it up? A dropped item? Meng Lei was a little taken aback. Yes, pick it up. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a metal origin divine body. Will you assimilate it? Trattino basso? Astonished, Meng Lei exclaimed, "What the heck? A metal origin divine body? Are you serious?" Had it been a few days ago when Meng Lei didn't yet know what a metal origin divine body was, he might not have been that astonished. But now that he did, all the more astonished he was. According to Dodola, origin divine bodies were one of the most powerful types of divine bodies in the vast universe. As they were compatible with laws of nature origins, not only did the owners of such bodies possess an astonishingly fast cultivation speed, but they were also incomparably strong. On top of that, they even came with all kinds of incredible innate special abilities and other abilities. And now, I've actually picked up a metal origin divine body? What the heck? Just what kind of background does this pair of wings have? Meng Lei promptly consulted Dodola. Eh? Dodola's eyes lit up the moment it saw the metal alloy wings. It said, "Kid, your luck is pretty good. You've actually gotten your hands on a treasure like this? Have you ransacked the Titan Empire's treasury?" As expected, "I can't hide anything from you." Meng Lei burst into laughter. Dodola looked at Meng Lei mockingly and remarked, "You're too bold. To think you dare to even challenge the Titan spiritual god. Aren't you afraid that he'll take revenge on you? If he dares to come, I'll hammer him to death." Meng Lei wasn't too bothered about the Titan spiritual god. In any case, he'd already made up his mind. Before he became a true god, he would never take a step out of heaven's vault continent. When he became a true god, he'd definitely be a great perfection level 1. By then, why would he still need to fear the Titan spiritual god? The Titan spiritual god indeed can't do anything about you. Dodola couldn't help but laugh. Then it said, "But don't you forget that he's still a pinnacle-level intermediate deity, after all. There are many ways he can deal with you. You'd better take it easy. Don't worry. I know what to do." Meng Lei gave Dodola a smile. Then he asked, "What exactly is this, though?" "It's good stuff. Rare good stuff." A smiling Dodola said, "Have you heard of the steel-winged angels?" "The steel-winged angels?" "Not at all." Meng Lei shook his head lightly. "I've only heard of angels and fallen angels. Like the fallen angels, steel-winged angels are also angels. The difference between the two is that the former is a clan of angels that formed after the members had fallen from grace." A smiling Dodola said, "While the steel-winged angels are a kind of completely new life form that comes into being when an angel's bloodline mutates." "When their bloodline mutates?" Meng Lei was mildly taken aback. "That's right. When their bloodline mutates. Just like the 100-armed giants come into being when Titan gods undergo a bloodline mutation, steel-winged angels are a new life form that comes into being when angels undergo a bloodline mutation." Dodola explained, "There are both advantages and disadvantages to bloodline mutations. Some mutations allow one's lifespan and power to increase sharply, while some cause them to fall drastically." A curious Meng Lei asked, "And in the case of the steel-winged angels?" "Like the 100-armed giants, their mutation is also for the better." Dodola glanced at the metal alloy wings. Then, it said, "Apart from their original light elemental foundation, post-mutation steel-winged angels also gain an additional metal elemental attribute. Thus, on top of having the angels' every talent, ability, and special ability, steel-winged angels also possess an additional metal elemental talent, ability, and special ability. In terms of battle power, steel-winged angels are much more powerful than normal angels. But unlike the 100-armed giants, steel-winged angels weren't expelled by the angel gods. Instead, they even became priority targets of grooming." Dodola said wistfully, "The steel-winged angels also worked hard to live up to expectations. Although there aren't many of them, almost every one of them was able to become a higher deity. Additionally, a great perfection true god even emerged from among them, greatly boosting the angel god's combat strength and heritage. Their name resounds greatly in the vast universe. Are the steel-winged angels that monstrous?" Meng Lei clicked his tongue in wonder. Then, he asked, "Do all steel-winged angels have metal origin divine bodies? How can that be?" Dodola promptly shook its head. "Just how rare are origin divine bodies? How can there possibly be clans of them? Is it impossible? Of course. Take the fairy goddess, for example. Even though she has a wood origin divine body, it doesn't mean that other fairies would also possess wood origin divine bodies. As a matter of fact, out of innumerable fairies in the world, only the fairy goddess owns a wood origin divine body. The same goes for the steel-winged angels. A random steel-winged angel may have a metal origin divine body, but it's impossible for all of them to have one each. I see. Meng Lei couldn't help but smile. In that case, my luck has shot through the roof. I picked up a random pair of steel-winged angel wings and immediately bumped into the metal origin divine body. Metal origin divine body? Dodola looked puzzled. You can't be saying that the owner of these wings has a metal origin divine body, right? What kind of joke is that? How can that be? It's true, Dodola. A smiling Meng Lei said, the owner of this pair of wings does indeed have a metal origin divine body. Really? A doubtful Dodola asked. How did you know that? I just do. Meng Lei gave Dodola a smile. Then, without waiting for Dodola to pursue the matter, he contacted the system at once. Say no more, system. Assimilate the metal origin divine body. Ding! Assimilating the metal origin divine body now. Clank! A golden deluge suddenly surged out of Meng Lei's mind, instantly spreading throughout his body. It flowed through his limbs and integrated itself into every nook and cranny of his body. His cells gradually turned a golden color, in turn causing his flesh, blood, bones, organs, and skin to also turn gold. As though someone had cast the metal elemental first-class spell Ultimate Alchemy on him, Meng Lei gradually turned a golden color. What's going on? Dodola was shocked by Meng Lei's sudden change. It panicked and hastily shouted, Meng Lei, what's happening to you? Meng Lei paid Dodola no heed. Instead, he shut his eyes and took in the changes happening in his body in detail. He could feel it. A fierce, torrential wave of metal elemental energy was currently modifying his body. It wasn't metal elemental laws of nature. It wasn't metal elemental power of divinity. It wasn't metal elemental magic power. It wasn't metal elemental battle aura. So, just what exactly was it? Meng Lei couldn't put his finger on it either. All he could tell was that it was a very peculiar kind of metal elemental energy. There was no pain during the entire process. Additionally, the assimilation process was very quick. It didn't last even a minute before it ended. Yet it was exactly this short 1 minute's time that made Meng Lei feel like his body had undergone an extreme change. What a peculiar sensation! Meng Lei felt as if the metal laws of nature in the universe had become his friends and his servants, allowing him to manipulate, direct, and control them. This was a sensation that felt like he'd completely mastered metal laws of nature. It was entirely different from how his prior comprehension of the laws of nature had felt. He'd previously already comprehended metal elemental laws of nature, but just like how one mastered a discipline of learning, all he had achieved was merely mastering all the knowledge related to the subject of study. He could make use of that knowledge to do certain things, such as casting spells, casting first-class spells, and casting divine techniques. By doing this, he was reproducing the way the spells were to be cast and applying what he had learned. But now, he could directly command that knowledge to carry out tasks for him, such as cast a spell, cast a first-class spell, or cast a divine technique. He was completely commanding and controlling them. There was a world of difference between the two. To put it in more concrete terms, the former depleted one's spiritual power, magic power, and power of divinity, whereas the latter depleted only a small amount of spiritual power and no magic power or power of divinity at all. Evidently, there was a difference in intrinsic quality between the two. 2. Chapter 242 A Sea of Dead Bodies, The Grim Reaper's Scythe. Even if Dodola hadn't recognized the metal origin divine body at the start of Meng Lei's assimilation process, it would have lived all these years in vain if it still couldn't recognize it as the process went on. A metal origin divine body. That was definitely a metal origin divine body. Meng Lei had actually inexplicably obtained a metal origin divine body right under its nose. Dodola felt as if everything it knew had been overturned. Origin divine bodies were an inborn characteristic. What was the meaning of inborn? It meant that the characteristic existed in one from birth. If it wasn't there at the point of birth, then they would never have it, no matter how much they tried. Dodola had never heard of anyone successfully modifying their body into an origin divine body after they were born. Dodola circled Meng Lei vigorously, its eyes boring into him as if wanting to see through all of his secrets and see through him. Meng Lei also just so happened to open his eyes at this point. A couple of sharp glints flashed across his eyes, and then, 2 cracks formed in the air with a rip. Dodola promptly asked, "Be honest with me, Meng Lei. What exactly is up with the metal origin divine body? I just gained it for some inexplicable reason." Meng Lei blinked at Dodola. Some inexplicable reason. Dodola gnashed its teeth in frustration, feeling the urge to beat someone up. "You're always spinning some kind of story whenever I ask you something crucial. Do you know that you'll end up friendless if you do that? No, this won't do. You must give me an honest explanation today. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep. What does whether you're able to get to sleep or not have anything to do with me?" Meng Lei secretly dissed Dodola, but nevertheless, he still answered, "I have a miraculous ability that allows me to plunder bloodlines, divine bodies, special abilities, and so on, and assimilate them into my own body so that I can become stronger." "What did you say?" A huge shudder went through the utterly astounded Dodola. "Does an ability like that even exist?" "Of course." Meng Lei gave Dodola a smug smile. "That's how the god-slaying rat, divine netherworld phoenix, and 100-armed giant bloodlines, as well as my teleportation, transfer, and other special abilities came about. Of course, I'll continue to plunder even more bloodlines, divine bodies, and special abilities in the future, too." Dodola was stunned. Only after a long while did 2 words come out of its mouth. "You monster! Thanks for the compliment." A smiling Meng Lei then asked, "Do you think there's a need for me to assimilate the steel-winged angel bloodline?" "The steel-winged angel bloodline?" Dodola was slightly taken aback before it realized what Meng Lei meant. It asked, "Are you thinking of assimilating the steel-winged angel bloodline?" "I'll assimilate it if it's useful, but if it isn't, then I'll leave it." With a shake of his head, Meng Lei said, "I'm a very practical person. Everything I do is for the sake of power. Of course it's useful." Without any hesitation whatsoever, Dodola said, "The steel-winged angel bloodline is in no way inferior to the fallen angel, god-slaying rat, divine netherworld phoenix, and 100-armed giant bloodlines. Assimilating it will give you lots of benefits. Tell me about it in detail." Meng Lei perked up. "Firstly, after you assimilate the steel-winged angel bloodline, you'll gain speed that's as fast as the speed of light. The angel gods are well known for their speed. It's no joke. Secondly, you'll also come to possess superbly strong defenses. Although your defenses are already very strong, the addition of the steel-winged angel's defenses will definitely be an extra powerful boost, allowing your defenses to reach fearsome levels." Dodola went on unceasingly. "Next, every part of the steel-winged angel's body is a weapon. If you assimilate the bloodline, your offensive power will also greatly increase. You've never seen how the steel-winged angels wove to and fro and crisscrossed left and right at will as they slaughtered the devils during the war between the gods and the devils. The sight is simply too terrifying. Lastly, as well as most importantly," Dodola's eyes shone keenly and brightly as it said, "the angel gods are an extremely powerful clan of gods. This is especially true in the celestial realm, where they hold fearsome power and authority. If you own the steel-winged angel bloodline, you'll have a chance of receiving the angel god's priority grooming and receive a great deal of benefits for free like the Titan spiritual god." The angel god's grooming. Meng Lei's eyes lit up. The allure was rather great. Would the angel gods be like the Theodore clan and bestow upon him a few hundred existential planes as his territory? 2. As they say, big trees provide great shade. If you can join a powerful force, it'll be greatly advantageous toward your future development and growth." Dodola snickered and asked, "Why do you think native true gods like the dragon god and the beast god desire so much to join a powerful force yet are unable to?" "It's because they aren't qualified enough. Now that you have such a fantastic opportunity, you mustn't let it pass you by. Otherwise, you'll receive divine punishment." "That makes sense." Meng Lei nodded incessantly. A shrewd glint flashed in his eyes as he said, "Even if we take a step back and assume that I don't wish to join the angel gods, The assimilation of the steel-winged angel bloodline itself is tantamount to having an additional choice. Yes, that's exactly it. All right, I know what to do now. Meng Lei nodded repeatedly. Then he resolutely gave the command. System. Plunder the steel-winged angel bloodline. Ding! The steel-winged angel bloodline is classified as a higher life form's bloodline. This pair of steel-winged angel wings belongs to an 8-winged steel angel. The system stated coldly, price estimation. Plundering said bloodline requires 19.6 million laws of nature origin crystals. Trattino basso? 19.6 million. Meng Lei couldn't help but gasp. That's too freaking expensive. I won't plunder it anymore. I won't plunder it anymore. I can't afford to. At once, the system's presence vanished. Have you succeeded? Asked an excited Dodola. It failed. Meng Lei gave Dodola a wry smile. This pair of wings belongs to an 8-winged steel angel. I can't afford the cost of plundering it. An 8-winged steel angel? Dodola was greatly disappointed. 8-winged steel angels are comparable to higher deities. It has indeed exceeded the range of what you can plunder. It's understandable why you wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah, I can't plunder it mainly because it's too expensive. Expensive? My bad. What I mean is that it's too high a grade. When I become stronger, perhaps I'll be able to plunder it in the future. All right. Speaking of which, this is rather strange, though. Why would an 8-winged steel angels, and on top of that, one who even has a metal origin divine body, wings show up in a place like this? Meng Lei cast a habitual glance at his stats interface upon exiting the Tower of Time and started to take inventory of his new gains. True enough, the interface had changed again. Host, Meng Lei race. Human, primeval bloodline. Primordial human, 16%. Assimilated bloodlines. God-slaying rat. Divine netherworld phoenix. 100-armed giant. Wealth. 49.41 million laws of nature origin crystals physical body constitution. Metal origin divine body, 1%. Spirit. Half deity, pinnacle grade. Others. Some increase my physical body constitution has become a metal origin divine body. 1%. 1%? What does the 1% at the back mean? Ding! A friendly tip. The metal origin divine body is formed using metal elemental laws of nature as a source. The host's body is flesh and blood. Hence, it hasn't perfectly integrated with the host. It hasn't perfectly integrated with my body? In other words, the 1% represents my metal origin divine body's assimilation rate. It's surprisingly rather similar to bloodline assimilation rates. Meng Lei understood now. He asked, System, how much does it cost to buy credit for the metal origin divine body assimilation rate? Ding! Raising the metal origin divine body assimilation rate by 1% requires 1 million divinity crystals. 1 million divinity crystals? Forget it. Forget it. Meng Lei broke into a resigned smile at once. That's too expensive. I won't fetch that high a price even if you sell me off. After adjusting his frame of mind, Meng Lei then continued to look through the treasures. There was a very ample amount of treasures in the Titan Empire's treasury. Hence he looked forward very much to what he would see next. He collected the items as he looked through them. At last he came to a box. The box measured 4 by 2 meters in length and breadth and was 1 meter tall. Densely packed laws of nature runes were inscribed all over it. With Meng Lei's prowess in his comprehension of laws of nature, he could tell at once that these runes formed a sealing magic circle. I wonder what's inside the box for it to actually be sealed? Puzzled, Meng Lei began to break the seal. This didn't pose any problem to him at all. The seal was broken a brief moment later. Right away, a dense, rich aura of blood and death emanated from within, and the temperature around them fell by a few degrees out of the blue. For it to actually give off such a strong aura of blood and death, what can this possibly be? Meng Lei opened the box. A blood-red beam of light shot out from within, the resulting wind causing his cheeks to hurt. Meng Lei couldn't help but step back. A huge scythe that was fully blood-red in color as though doused in and forged from blood laid within the box. The handle measured 3 meters long, while the blade measured almost 2 meters wide. A blood-red chain was attached to the bottom end. The incomparably sharp blade glinted coldly in the light, bewitching and evil, bloodthirsty and emanating a dead stillness. As Meng Lei gazed upon the blood-red scythe, he felt as if he were staring at an incredibly evil demon, and chills ran down his spine. What an unholy scythe! Meng Lei was astounded. Nevertheless, he still grabbed hold of the blood-red scythe. Buzz! The scythe trembled lightly as a few icy glints of light flashed across the buzzing wide and broad blade. Slash! Meng Lei brandished the scythe. With a slash, the box, which was forged from an unknown kind of metal, was instantly sundered into two. The scythe continued to slice through the air, actually slashing a tiny, barely discernible space-time rift in the air. What a sharp scythe this is! It's even sharper than the blood-red machete. What level of divine weapon is this? Meng Lei could hardly believe it. Nevertheless, he still dripped a drop of blood onto the scythe. As though a drop into the ocean, the blood seeped right into the scythe. Ha ha! This divine weapon doesn't belong to anyone. Meng Lei was thrilled. Buzz! The scythe began to tremble vigorously. The next moment, a dense beam of blood-red light shot into the sky. Meng Lei felt the world spinning around him. And then, he actually bizarrely went into a blood-red world. Blood-red skies, blood-red lands, blood-red mountains, blood-red rocks. An infinite number of dead bodies were strewn all over the blood-red lands. There were Titan deities that reached as tall as 1,000,000 feet. There were 8 winged angels with 8 wings on their backs. There were primordial colossal dragons that spanned as long as 1,000,000 feet. There were also dead bodies of various other life forms, which gave off vast, majestic divine power that Meng Lei didn't recognize. But all the dead bodies had a common trait. They were headless. Yes, that's right. Headless. They were all headless bodies. Where have their heads gone? Puzzlement filled Meng Lei. Then, he saw a mud monument made out of stacked heads in the middle of the wide, spacious mountain of dead bodies. There were Titan heads, dragon heads, angel heads, as well as the heads of other deities, an infinite number of heads piled together to form a 100,000 feet tall mountain of heads. And at the peak of the mountain stood a black figure dressed in a black hood and holding a blood-red scythe. The howling blood winds blew across the black robe, causing it to flap loudly in the wind. Blood dripped from the blood-red scythe, forming a bewitching and unholy sight. Just what kind of unholy weapon is this? Meng Lei couldn't help but swallow hard. Meng Lei! Meng Lei! Dodola's voice suddenly rang out beside his ear. Whoosh! The blood-red world instantly broke into blood-red fragments. Meng Lei then found himself back on the half-plane again, with Dodola currently calling out to him. This scythe? Meng Lei gazed at the blood-red scythe in his hand, a few beads of cold sweat forming on his forehead. Why aren't you replying, Meng Lei? Dodola started to shout again. I'm here, Dodola. Meng Lei asked. Is something up? A rather incensed Dodola asked. What's wrong with you, kid? Why did you take so long to respond? A puzzled Meng Lei asked. What's the matter? I discovered something incredible when I was looking up something just now, Meng Lei, Dodola said excitedly. Among all the steel-winged angels of the angel gods, there's only one person that owns a metal-origin divine body. Meng Lei quickly asked. Who is it? It's that great perfection true God. Dodola snickered as it asked. Do you know what this means? It means that this pair of wings comes from that great perfection steel-winged angel. If you can assimilate his bloodline and form a connection with him, you'll become an impressive figure. Let's leave the matter of assimilating the steel-winged angel bloodline to another time. Meng Lei shook his head. Then he said, I have a weapon here that I'd like you to take a look at. Astonished by the sight of the blood-red scythe in Meng Lei's hand, Dodola looked as if it had just seen a ghost. I took it from the Titan Empire's treasury. Meng Lei said honestly, I've tested it. This scythe is extremely sharp and has astonishing might. It's probably a very powerful divine weapon. How does powerful even cut it? With a shake of its head, Dodola said, This is the Grim Reaper scythe. It's the companion weapon to the Netherworld's Grim Reapers, and has beheaded so many deities that one can't even keep count anymore. The Grim Reaper Scythe? Meng gasped. What's a Grim Reaper? The Grim Reaper is also known as the god of death and refers to the deity that rules over death. Of course, the Grim Reaper doesn't just represent one person. Rather, the name refers to a whole clan instead, the Death Gods. Dodola explained, although there are only very few death gods in comparison to clans with great numbers like the Titan gods and the Angel gods, every single Grim Reaper is an extremely fearsome existence, because all the Grim Reapers are higher deities. They are all higher deities? My goodness, had there been more of them, would other races even have a shot at survival? Meng couldn't help but gasp. A clan where every single person was a higher deity. Just what kind of concept was that? Thus, the Death Gods are one of the most powerful forces in the Netherworld. Although there are only very few of them, no one dares to look down on them, Dodola added. In particular, the Death God's ruler, the Grim Reaper King, is even one of the greatest and most noble existences in the vast universe. Meng could hardly contain his excitement. He asked, "So, this means that this scythe is a higher deity's weapon?" Dodola nodded slowly. Then it said, "But I wouldn't recommend that you use it because the Grim Reaper scythe is extremely bloodstained and unholy. It'll affect your state of mind. Weapons are inanimate, whereas humans are alive." Meng remained non-committal to Dodola's suggestion. He said, "As if inanimate objects can take control of a live human. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Dodola chastised him. "You mustn't be negligent." All right. Then Meng left the Tower of Time. One must admit that the Grim Reaper scythe indeed looked very impressive and domineering. When Meng hoisted it over his shoulder, even he felt that he looked rather cool. "I must try this treasure out when I get the chance to." Meng had taken a huge fancy to the Grim Reaper scythe. Only after fiddling with it properly for quite a while did he leave the half-plane and return to the Titan Spiritual Peak summit. "Master!" Nadia, Scythe, and Bubbles hurriedly came forward to receive him. Klaus, who had previously headed to the Great Earth Pillar Nation, was also back. Klaus handed a spatial ring over and said, "Master, these are the Chimera's assets. Thanks for your hard work," said Meng received the spatial ring from him. The Chimera's assets certainly in no way matched up to the Titan Empire's, but one shouldn't underestimate them either. An inventory of the assets showed that they had brought Meng another 2 million laws of nature origin crystals, as well as innumerable other rare and precious treasures. "Our trip is complete. We can leave now." After collecting the rest of the treasures, Meng summoned the Thunder Titan Emperor over again. He said, "Thunder Titan Emperor, you're a pretty nice guy, so I won't take your life. Thank you for sparing my life." The Thunder Titan Emperor was so grateful that he was close to tears. "I'm about to leave. I'd like to ask you for one last favor." Meng asked, "I wonder if that's okay?" The Thunder Titan Emperor quickly replied, "Your wish is my command, sir. I will definitely do my best to fulfill it." Right now, all he wanted was to see Meng off. Never to return again, preferably. Spread the news of everything that has happened here everywhere. Let the Titan Empire's people know what exactly has taken place here. Meng smiled calmly and asked, "Can you do that?" "Yes, absolutely." The Thunder Titan Emperor hurriedly gave his word. "Great." Meng gave him a slight nod. Then he said, "Let's go." "Yes, master." Klaus transformed into his true form and left with Meng and the others on his back. The Thunder Titan Emperor watched as they went far away into the distance until all he could see was a tiny black dot. Only then did he finally heave a long sigh of relief and collapsed onto the ground weakly. "He's gone. That devil is finally gone. I've managed to stay alive somehow. Thank goodness." "Your Majesty." The Titan Empress and other survivors walked over, their expressions one of relief from surviving the ordeal. The Thunder Titan Emperor felt like crying as he looked at them, however. The half-deity grandmasters were all dead, while only a handful of court officials, nobles, and saint domains were left. How were they supposed to survive? That renegade, knave, treacherous bandit. The Thunder Titan Emperor gnashed his teeth, wishing he could rip Meng into shreds. I'm so mad. It's over. All over. Oh, my empire. As though a red bolt of lightning, Klaus soared swiftly in the sky while Meng, Bubbles, and the others sat on his back and chatted idly. Are you also a Titan, Master? Bubbles asked as he watched Meng, his eyes full of excitement and curiosity. Not really, I guess. I'm a 100-armed giant. Meng shook his head with a laugh. A 100-armed giant? Bubbles broke into a slight frown. He'd never heard of the 100-armed giants. 100-armed giants refer to the legendary Titan mutants. However, they were expelled by the Titans and became the supreme god of the underworld's guards in the end, explained Scythe, the Thunderbolt Queen. At the same time, an even stronger sense of curiosity also filled her eyes as she gazed at Meng. First, it was the divine Netherworld Phoenix bloodline, and now it's the 100-armed giant bloodline. Master has simply too many secrets. He's just like a ball of mystery. A Titan mutant? That's also a Titan. Bubbles' eyes lit up as he burst into loud laughter. Master, the same blood flows through our veins. Ha ha ha. Well, I guess so. Meng shook his head lightly. Then, he brought out about 100 half-divine weapons that were giving off power of divinity energy fluctuations. I took these half-divine weapons from the Dragon God Empire and the Titan Empire's treasuries. Each of you can pick a few for yourselves as weapons. So many half-divine weapons. Bubbles and the other 3 half-deities were so astonished that their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. They were half-deities, hence in terms of weapons, half-divine weapons suited them best. Yet as underground half-deities, all of them were as poor as a church mouse. When had they ever seen this many half-divine weapons? Can we really take our pick, Master? A rather agitated Bubbles asked in a loud outburst as he looked at Meng hopefully. Of course. Take whatever you want. Meng gave them a slight smile. Then he closed his eyes, and his consciousness entered the Tower of Time. The 96th level was still the same dim and dull blood-red world with blood-red skies and blood-red lands. Unlike in the past, however, the entire half-plane was dead silent and completely soundless now. The dark elemental magical beasts were nowhere in sight, and neither were the tens of thousands of devils he'd stocked up here. They'd all vanished. As for little Cola, Meng found her in a pile of bushes. The little fellow had wrapped her wings snugly around herself and was exceptionally blissfully fast asleep. She's really eaten them all? Isn't that too great an appetite? Meng was rendered somewhat speechless. In spite of that, what must be summoned still had to be summoned. Otherwise, the little fellow would have to starve. At once, Meng tried to detect the faraway demon realm's location and began to summon the devils. As a high-end existential plane, the demon realm and heaven's vault continent difference was apparent to Meng. The laws of nature were more obvious there, and magic elements were also richer in concentration there. Dark magic elements, in particular, were extremely abundant. It was practically the dark elemental being's sanctum. Apart from that, the demon realm's dimensional structure was also stabler. Half-deity level attacks were completely incapable of shaking the space-time dimension there. Ripping a fissure into the void? Don't even think about it. Of course, the demon realm was also wider and vaster than Heaven's Vault continent and was nearly boundless. For the same reason, many regions in the demon realm were void of any presence. And wasn't that so? Meng had been wandering about in the sky in the demon realm for half a day. Yet he'd only managed to catch a paltry 100 or so devils. It wasn't even enough as a snack for little Cola. This won't work. I have to find a devil who's about as strong as myself and ask them for directions. The demonic aura there is so strong. Meng had spied a large, bald mountain devoid of any vegetation. Smoke rose from the mountain. Evidently, that was a volcano, and the demonic aura was coming from the volcano's mouth. He came to the volcano's mouth. The boiling hot lava inside constantly bubbled as it gave off shockingly high heat. A torrential wave of demonic aura was also coming from the lava. Meng mumbled, "It's probably a half-deity level devil." Then, he manifested his divine cognition into a humanoid form and began to provoke it. Roar. A low, deep roar traveled over to him, and then a gigantic ram-horned head emerged from within the lava. Its eyes were blood-red like rubies and looked incredibly unholy. Lowly, cheap human magician, how dare you disturb the great Lord Gabriel's slumber? I'm going to eat you. This aura. A fire demon? Surprise appeared on Meng Lei's countenance. He'd found the demonic aura from the volcano very familiar when he was on the way over just now. As it turned out, a fire demon had been in deep slumber in the volcano. The fire demon. There was no way Meng Lei could forget about it, of course. He had assimilated the fire demon bloodline back then, after all. Roar. The fire demon in the lava launched its attack. A couple of fire dragons formed from lava soared out of the volcano and rushed toward Meng Lei. However, with a flick of Meng Lei's fingers, the two fire dragons immediately turned around and flew toward the fire demon instead. Damn it! At the sight, the fire demon smacked the lava lake, causing a waterfall of lava to rise from the lake and using it to block the fire dragons. Surprisingly, you do have a bit of skill to you. This is my turf, however, so how can I allow you to horse around here? The fire demon let out an icy snort. Then, it slowly rose from the lava. It was actually a 100 feet tall adult fire demon bathed in flames. D. The fire demon roared, instantly turning into a flash of lightning that shot toward Meng Lei. Meng Lei uttered two words, ultimate alchemy. He was currently here in the demon realm in his divine spirit form, so he couldn't use his divine body, his power of divinity, his special abilities, or his divine weapons. Thus, his combat power had taken a huge dip. There were simply too few options available to him while he was in his divine spirit form. Apart from spiritual attacks, laws of nature were the only option he had. If he wanted to subdue the half-deity level fire demon within the shortest amount of time possible, then the only choice he had was to use his most powerful skill, his control of metal laws of nature. Whoosh! A dazzling golden light beam descended from above, instantly crashing down onto the fire demon and completely transmuting it into gold in a split second. Meng Lei opened up the devil channel and brought the fire demon out with him before dispelling ultimate alchemy's effects on it. Roar! The fire demon was right about to attack the moment it was freed, but upon sensing the aura in the surroundings, it became thunderstruck at once, and a look of fear and shock appeared on its face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were a good 5 half-deities around him, and every single one emanated an aura that was much more powerful than his. Yes, sir. The fearful fire demon bowed down to Meng Lei at once. Raise your head. Meng Lei replied calmly. Yes, sir. The fire demon trembled as it raised its head, looking at Meng Lei with an expression of fear. By now, it could already tell that Meng Lei was the one who had brought him here. Tell me about the demon realm. The demon realm was very big. Unimaginably so. Even the fire demon Overlord couldn't come up with a concrete answer as to just how big it was exactly. All it knew was that its place of residence was called the Campus Wastelands, and that it spanned 10 million miles from the north to the south and 30 million miles from the east to the west. The nearest city was the Magic Wing City. The lord of the city was a true god-level demon lord, and he ruled over all the districts 100,000 miles of the city. He was the most influential devil in the vicinity. At this point, one must make a mention of Hell's combat prowess classification. The demon realm was a high-end existential plane that was unlike Heaven's vault continent. Saint domains lived a life worse than dogs, and deities could be found everywhere. All those weaker than Saint domain were cannon fodder that the demon realm termed as demon soldiers. Above the demon soldiers, in ascending order, were the demon generals, overlords, demon lords, great demon lords, demon gods, great demon gods, and the demon grandmaster. Demon generals were the equivalent of saint domains. Overlords were the equivalent of half-deities. Demon lords were the equivalent of true gods. Great demon lords were the equivalent of lesser deities. Demon gods were the equivalent of intermediate deities. Great demon lords were the equivalent of higher deities, and the demon grandmaster was the equivalent of a chief god. How many devils are there in total in Magic Wings City? Meng Lei popped the most crucial question. The demon realm's vastness was beyond what he'd imagined. How big must the demon realm be when the campus wastelands alone were already this big? Based on the fire demon overlord's description, the campus wastelands was just a corner of the Purple Cloud Island, while Purple Cloud Island itself was no more than just an island in the demon realm. So how big exactly was the demon realm? Meng couldn't even begin to fathom its size, considering the demon realm's vast size where large expanses of area were desolate with not even a single devil in sight. Meng could only try and come up with a solution that centered around Magic Wing City. The fire demon overlord answered truthfully, "No fewer than 1 trillion. 1 trillion. Meng couldn't help but gasp. In other words, a weak true god is actually ruling over 1 trillion devils? Yes, sir. Deep down in the fire demon overlord's heart, though he was secretly dissing Meng. A weak true god. The Lord of Magic Wing City is a true god. He's no doubt the strongest and most powerful in his personal fiefdom, known as the Magic Wing City. Meng barked. Tell me the way to Magic Wing City, as well as the lowdown on the devils occupying the area around it. He couldn't wait to rob Magic Wing City now. Yes, sir. Not daring to show any disrespect, the fire demon overlord quickly went into detail about everything he remembered about the situation around Magic Wing City and its vicinity. He was so forthright that it was almost ridiculous. And now, the last question, do you wish to live or die? The fire demon overlord shuddered in fear and hastily pleaded for mercy. Spare me, sir. Meng replied aloofly. If you don't wish to die, then hand over your divine spirit origin energy and become my servant. Although the fire demon overlord didn't amount to much in the demon realm, it was still a native half-deity of the demon realm after all. With it leading the way for him, at least he wouldn't need to go about blindly. Yes, sir. A pained look appeared on the fire demon overlord's countenance. Nevertheless, it still released its divine spirit origin energy right away. The demon realm was a place where it was the survival of the fittest. Weaklings submitting to the strong was something that happened all the time and wasn't something to be ashamed of. After refining the fire demon overlord's divine spirit origin energy, Meng returned to the demon realm with it and got it to lead the way toward Magic Wing City for him. Things would be a lot easier, now that he had someone who knew their way around. This was a truth that would never change. Under the fire demon overlord's lead, Meng no longer went about aimlessly. Instead, he found a devil tribe with pinpoint accuracy. Catch everything. Plunder everything. Take everything. He caught all the devils and devil tribes he encountered along the way, whether they were strong or weak. Meng managed to catch 1,000,000 devils after patronizing just 3 to 4 devil tribes. The Tower of Time's 96th level was already close to filling up, yet they were still a great distance away from their destination, the Magic Wing City. Left with no other choice, Meng could only hastily end his hunt. After that, Meng tasked the fire demon overlord with a mission. It was to do its best to summon and gather all the devils nearby. Even though the fire demon overlord wanted very much to reject him, owing to Meng tyrannical bearing, it had no choice but to obey. Do your best, and I'll bestow upon you a divine core someday and let you become a demon lord, too. After giving the fire demon overlord a boost of encouragement, Meng consciousness left the demon realm. I didn't think that patronizing the devil tribes would reap me such benefits. What a pleasant surprise. Meng couldn't help but grin as he gazed at the additional assets. He'd ransacked a total of more than 3 million laws of nature origin crystals during the trip earlier. This transaction was much simpler than ransacking the Dragon Island, Sunset Ranges, and the Titan Empire. The demon realm is a gigantic gold mine. The number of riches there is beyond one's imagination. I can focus my money-making efforts on the demon realm in the future. Meng quietly made up his mind. Where are we now? Meng opened his eyes to discover that they were above an endless ocean. Master, we've just left Dragon God Empire and arrived at the endless ocean's eastern waters. Klaus said respectfully. We're 2 hours away from the Golden Archipelago. 2 hours? That's pretty fast. Meng stretched, and then he asked, have all of you picked your weapons? Yes, we have, Master. Meng Lei then kept the rest of the half-divine weapons away. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye, and the group finally arrived at the Golden Archipelago. When one overlooked the area from high up in the sky, they would see innumerable islands dotting the vast, boundless ocean. Spread all over the place, they looked just like green turtles floating on the surface of the ocean. They formed a massive chain of islands, providing a unique seascape scenery and a rather magnificent sight. "This is the Golden Archipelago, Master." Bubbles pointed at the chain of islands and said, "The golden dragon lions have lived here for generations. They are the local tyrant of the waters here and control the life and death of billions of living beings here." Meng Lei nodded slightly and instructed, "Let's go down and take a look." "Yes, Master." The islands were home to many people, including humans, as well as beast people. However, they seemed to be completely out of touch from the rest of Heaven's Vault continent and appeared to be extremely primitive. They lived in simple and crude straw huts and wore torn and tattered grass skirts and straw hats. They appeared to be living fairly hard lives. On the other hand, the most magnificent and lavish building on the island was actually a grand, lofty, and towering divine temple. There was a divine temple on almost every island. Many joss sticks burned within the temples and formed a flourishing sight while worshippers constantly went to and fro. The number of cultivators don't even come up to 10% of the people here. Meng Lei shook his head. "The golden dragon lion's reign is really a dark one. How does dark even cut it?" With a sigh, Bubbles said, "The golden dragon lions are the most supreme local tyrants in the golden dragon lions. These islanders are just their slaves, servants, and tools that provide them with power of faith. They don't see them as humans at all. So, what's the point of leaving a clan like that in the world?" Meng Lei shook his head and said, "Let's go. We'll head straight to the Golden Dragon Lion's base." "Yes, Master." The Golden Dragon Lion continent was the biggest, flashiest, and grandest island in the Golden Archipelago. Rather than an island, it was actually more like a continent. It measured 7,000 kilometers from the north to the south and stretched on for 9,000 kilometers from the east to the west. The surface area spanned a size as big as over 50 million square kilometers. One could call it a continent on the ocean. An incredibly huge palace complex stood in the very center of the Golden Dragon Lion continent. The buildings were well-spaced, splendid, and majestic. In the center of the palaces stood a golden dragon lion statue that was as tall as 100,000 feet. Fully forged from gold, it gave off an imposing and endless might. At the moment, an infinite number of people were kneeling in the square in front of the statue. There were humans dressed in torn and tattered clothes, beast people with animal heads and human bodies. There were as many as 1,000,000 people there. With no exception whatsoever, every single one of them was bound and immobilized, making them look just like criminals who had been sentenced to be beheaded and were awaiting the executioner's arrival. In reality, however, they were no criminals but sacrificial offerings that the Golden Dragon Lions had captured. 1,000,000 sacrificial offerings. This was something terrifying. Standing in front of the sacrificial offerings were almost 10,000 people from the Golden Dragon Lion clan. With weapons in their grip and a stern look on their countenances, they were crowded around a single person. Closer inspection would reveal that the man looked identical to someone whom Meng Lei had previously killed. Yes, he was the Golden Dragon Lion's Grandmaster, Thackeray. Reporting. A handsome and mighty-looking sea eagle suddenly flew toward him in the sky, and a brawny figure leaped off its back and quickly ran over to Thackeray. "Grandmaster, we've discovered traces of strangers. We were unable to discern how strong they are, but they travel at a speed that's as swift as lightning and far beyond what a Saint Domain is capable of. We suspect that they're half-deities," the man reported aloud. "At the speed they're moving, we predict that they'll arrive at the clan's ancestral home in an hour's time." "Half-deities? That knave has indeed come." A cold glint shot forth from Thackeray's eyes. He commanded, "Everyone, the clan's moment of life and death has come. Hear my command. Everyone is to return to their respective positions and activate the summoning rite." "Yes, Grandmaster." All the members of the Golden Dragon Lion clan sprung into action at his command. among which up to 1,000 Saint Domain experts darted to various corners of the square and arrived at their designated locations. If one were to overlook the area from the top, they would see that their locations just so came together to form a gigantic magic circle. Thackeray didn't idle either. He came to the very center of the magic circle and stood at the eye of the magic circle. "Hear my command. Begin!" With a roar and a swoosh of his sleeve, several golden threads shot out of Thackeray's sleeve and slashed across the sacrificial offerings' necks. In a split second, the carotid arteries of all the sacrificial offerings within a few hundred meters were severed, causing blood to flow incessantly. More than 1,000 Saint Domains also replicated the action and slashed across the sacrificial offerings' throats. For a moment, screams rang out one after another, and cries pleading for mercy went on incessantly. "Begin the summoning!" With a loud shout from Thackeray, power of divinity began to surge around him and spread into the surroundings. The Saint Domain experts also released their own battle aura and magic power, which spread toward the people in the surroundings. But everyone's battle aura and magic power linked together to form a gigantic magic circle, which was shining brilliantly. In the instant the magic circle took shape, a terrifying devouring force emanated from within and began to furiously devour the sacrificial offering's blood. The blood of nearly 1,000,000 people flowed rapidly in this instant, the momentum unstoppable no matter what one did. Gradually, some of the offerings lost all the blood in them and began to collapse to the ground. 1, 2, 3. In under half a minute, all of the 1,000,000 sacrificial offerings died. Their faces were deathly pale, having died from blood loss while they were still alive. Their deaths looked extremely tragic. Upon devouring the blood of 1,000,000 people, the magic circle immediately turned blood-red and bewitching, its bloodiness reaching extreme heights while it gave off terrifying energy waves. At this point, Thackeray suddenly got down on his knees and began to pray piously. "Hear your descendants call and appear before us, O great Ram Lion Grandmaster." The 1,000 Saint Domains also knelt on the ground and prayed aloud. As for the 1,000,000 people that had died, no one took them to heart at all. But a massive dimensional gate appeared above the magic circle, and a low, deep roar rang out. The next moment, a gigantic head emerged from the dimensional gate, followed by an enormous body. It was simply too big. It seemed like the dimensional gate couldn't contain it at all. It pressed against the dimensional gate furiously, desperately trying to squeeze out of it. It was actually a 10,000 meters long gigantic lion that was blood-red in color throughout and had ram horns on its head and a pair of bat wings on its back. Roar! At the sight of the gigantic ram lion in the center of the magic circle, and upon sensing the terrifying force of its presence that it was giving off, Thackeray lowered his head and bowed at once. "My respects to the Ram Lion Grandmaster." The 1,000 Saint Domains, as well as the other members of the Golden Dragon Lion clan, also bowed in greeting, their voices loud and sonorous. They were inexplicably excited as if they'd just seen their own fathers. "Who has summoned me?" The gigantic ram lion shouted in a low, deep voice as its blood-red eyes swept across Thackeray and the many Saint Domains. It sniffed hard at the air, and then it asked, "Are you my descendants?" "Grandmaster," Thackeray raised his head and replied excitedly, "This is Heaven's Vault Continent. We are your blood descendants that you left behind 80,000 years ago when you were traveling here." Heaven's Vault Continent? 80,000 years ago. The gigantic ram lion couldn't quite recall the memory for a moment there, and it walked down memory lane from eons ago. After a long while, it finally said, "I remember now. I had indeed graced a golden colossal dragon's bedchamber 80,000 years ago. All of you must be that golden colossal dragon's descendants." "Yes, exactly. Exactly." Overjoyed, Thackeray nodded repeatedly. "I see. No wonder you know the devil contractual magic circle that summons me." At once, the gigantic ram lion's eyes became significantly less hostile. It said with a voice like a great bell, "Descendants of mine, for what purpose do you summon me? Please let me report the matter to you, Grandmaster." With a face full of tears and snot, Thackeray said, A half-deity has newly emerged as a force on the material plane here. He is wicked, perverse, and behaves atrociously. Not only has he slaughtered all of Dragon God Empire's half-deities, but he even wiped out the Titan Empire's half-deities a moment ago. And now, he's making his way over to us. If nothing goes wrong, he'll arrive at the Golden Archipelago very soon. When that happens, all 1 million of my Golden Dragon Lion clansmen shall all die an untimely death. The clan is facing imminent danger where the calamity of complete annihilation may befall us any time. Left with no other choice, we could only disturb the Grandmaster's rest. Please forgive us, Grandmaster. All of you are my descendants. My blood flows through all of you. How can others slaughter all of you as they please? The gigantic ram lion flew into a thundering rage. He roared furiously. I'd like to take a look for myself just why a native half-deity dares to behave so audaciously. How virtuous of the Grandmaster! Thackeray hurriedly prostrated and kowtowed. Rise, everyone! The gigantic ram lion nodded slightly. His gaze swept past the million corpses in the square. Then, he licked his lips and roared deeply, I'm hungry! Hungry! Thackeray was taken by surprise for a moment before he quickly regained his senses. He ordered, Hurry! Bring forth the offerings that we've prepared, and let the Grandmaster sample them. Yes, Grandmaster. Before long, the Golden Dragon Lion clansmen brought forth the so-called offerings. They were actually some fair and fleshy human toddlers. Aged about 2 to 3 years old, these toddlers had been thoroughly cleaned up beforehand, and they wore not even a single thread of clothing. Fair and tender, they were then placed on trays and presented. A simple gaze revealed that there were easily tens of thousands of them. Thackeray received one of the trays and offered it up respectfully. Please enjoy your meal, Grandmaster. As descendants of the gigantic ram lion, not only did they, the Golden Dragon Lions, have the means of summoning the Grandmaster, but they also knew what it liked to eat because they've had similar experiences before. In the past, whenever they faced imminent annihilation of the clan, this was exactly what they would do. Making sacrificial offerings of 1 million people and then preparing another 100,000 male toddlers as sacrificial offerings. This was how they'd always been doing it for the last tens of thousands of years. Thackeray took no pity on all these lives. To the Golden Dragon Lions. All the people in the Golden Dragon Lions were their livestock and slaves. Who would care about the deaths of livestock? Yes, this offering is pretty good. The gigantic ram lion shrank its size. Then it opened its mouth and easily sucked a toddler into its mouth. Blood flowed incessantly amid loud crunching. As long as it's to Grandmaster's taste. Thackeray was delighted. He instructed, What are all of you spacing out for? Since it's to the Grandmaster's taste, then hurry and prepare some more for the Grandmaster. 100,000. No, 200,000. Prepare 200,000 offerings at once. Understood. The Golden Dragon Lion clansmen got down to it right away. The gigantic ram lion enjoyed the meal of toddlers with a look of intoxication on its face, as if it were eating a feast of delicacies. No one knew just how the Golden Dragon Lions had managed it, but the toddlers neither cried nor fussed. They were entirely unaware that they were about to become someone else's meal. There's more if these aren't enough, Grandmaster. Grandmaster. These are all our ways of showing filial respect to you. Grandmaster. An hour passed very quickly. All 100,000 toddlers ended up in the gigantic ram lion's belly. The ram lion burped and picked its teeth with a look of contentment on its visage. With an ingratiating look on his face, a beaming Thackeray asked, How do these offerings taste, Grandmaster? Pretty good. I'm very satisfied. The gigantic ram lion then cast a glance at him and asked, By the way, what is your name again? Thackeray hurriedly answered, My name is Thackeray Grandmaster. I'll keep you in mind, Thackeray. The gigantic ram lion nodded slightly before he said, Tell me about the situation in Heaven's Vault continent. Yes, Grandmaster. Not daring to be remiss in any way, Thackeray began to talk about Heaven's Vault continent's circumstances in detail. At the end of it, the ram lion sank into contemplative silence. The Titans were the ones ruling this existential plane back when I first came. Little did I think that 80,000 years later, beast people and colossal dragons would also emerge. These are the vicissitudes of life, indeed. How time has passed. Nevertheless, this is a fantastic opportunity right now. The gigantic ram lion turned to Thackeray. The Dragon God Empire and the Titan Empire's half-deities have all perished. It is now a time where the higher management of the empires is vacant. Your time has come. Grandmaster, you mean? Thackeray perked up. The ram lion said, lead the golden dragon lions and conquer the Dragon God Empire and the Titan Empire. Fight for power of faith and seize the opportunity to become a god. But Grandmaster, the Titan spiritual god, and the Dragon God probably wouldn't agree to that, would they? Despite being sorely tempted by the notion, Thackeray was still somewhat hesitant. He was just a normal half-deity and had even just lost a divine incarnation. He didn't have the guts to challenge the Titan spiritual god and the Dragon God just yet. Don't worry, I'll block them off for you, the gigantic ram lion said dispassionately. Deities can no longer approach a material plane with their real body once 10,000 years have passed since their deification, whereas we, the devils, can descend upon the material plane via a devil contract. With me around, what is there to fear about mere divinity projections of the Titan spiritual god and the Dragon God? I thank the Grandmaster for his advice. How virtuous of the Grandmaster. Thrilled, Thackeray kowtowed on his knees incessantly. The ram lion said aloofly, when you've become a true god, I shall have another true god descendant, and my ram lion clan shall also become even more powerful. Yes, Grandmaster. Thackeray's spirits were awfully uplifted. Nevertheless, he said, but the most pressing matter now is still to get rid of Meng, the renegade. He's the one that poses the biggest threat to us at the moment. A mere native half-deity is not worthy of mention. I can annihilate him with a simple flip of my hand. The gigantic ram lion glanced at him. He didn't take Meng seriously at all. It was an old-timer demon lord that ruled over billions of lives, after all. What did a mere half-deity even count as? An ingratiating Thackeray quickly said, the Grandmaster's powers reach all the way to the heavens. If that knave Meng dares to come, we'll definitely turn him into ashes and give him a terrible death. Boom! At that moment, a shrill scream suddenly rang out ahead of them. A jolt went through Thackeray, and he shouted, what has happened? Grandmaster, I'll go and take a look. The Saint Domain darted out. However, he was thrown back where he was again in no time, falling onto the ground and becoming motionless. Thackeray hastily looked over to see that all the Saint Domain clansmen's bones had been broken. Evidently, someone had violently broken him. Meng, he's here. A huge shudder went through Thackeray. He spied a lofty figure weaving through the palace complex as he walked toward them right away. The figure was 1,000 feet tall, a jet-black color throughout, and had intertwining muscles all over him. It was a Titan. Bubbles. Why is he here? At the sight of the Titan, Thackeray couldn't help but let out an exclamation. Upon taking a closer look, he then realized that 3 people were standing atop Bubbles' shoulder, and one of them was exactly the person he'd been thinking of day and night. Meng. Thackeray clenched his fists, his eyes spitting flames of wrath. He roared furiously, Meng, you knave! To think you really dare to make your way here. Eh? At the sound of his voice, Meng glanced over and immediately noticed Thackeray. An icy glint flashed in his eyes, and a hint of murderous intent flitted across. Thackeray, you should be cut into 1,000 pieces. I'll see who the one dying today is. Thackeray gave him a savage smile. You've killed my divine incarnation, causing my years of hard work to go up in smoke. On top of that, you've even come all the way to my doorstep to humiliate us. I'm going to cut you into 1,000,000 pieces so that my anger may be vented. Meng rose into the air and shot toward him. Klaus, Nadia, Scythe, and Bubbles followed closely behind him. Bubbles, you traitor! To think you've willingly become his servant. Thackeray glowered at Bubbles, his eyes spitting flames of fury. Thackeray, I am a willing servant to my great master. Bubbles said, "You, on the other hand, didn't seize the opportunity that Master had given you. So I'm afraid you're probably going to be wiped out together with the rest of your golden dragon lion clansmen today." "Wiped out? Ha ha ha," Thackeray sneered. "With Grandmaster here, I will never die. The golden dragon lions won't be wiped out either. You're the ones who are going to die." Grandmaster, Meng, Bubbles, and the others couldn't help but turn to the gigantic ram lion. In truth, they'd already sensed an extremely fearsome aura the moment they had stepped onto the golden dragon lion continent. It was evil, vicious, and bloodthirsty. At that point, they'd already realized that a terrifying existence had surfaced among the golden dragon lions. However, because they had to exterminate the golden dragon lion's underlings, they had arrived a little late. What a terrifying aura! Is it even a half-deity? Judging from this, it's probably the ram lions from the demon realm. The ram lions? They are a kind of intermediate devil in the demon realm. They have extremely terrifying numbers and are also a main battle force of the demon realm's devil troops. Even the weakest among them is a saint domain. "I see." Everyone nodded in understanding. Their eyes, as they gazed at the gigantic ram lion, were filled with graveness. Someone from a race where even the weakest possessed saint domain level strength would definitely possess a fearsome level of strength. They had to take utmost care when facing it. Thackeray said respectfully, "Grandmaster, those are the knaves that intend to annihilate the golden dragon lions. I hope the Grandmaster can take pity on us and save the clan from imminent calamity. Don't worry, all of you are my descendants. I will protect all of you." The gigantic ram lion nodded slightly. Then its blood-red eyes fell on Meng and company. "All of you deserve 1,000 deaths for actually vainly attempting to hurt my descendants." "Your descendants?" Meng broke into a slight frown. "How have the golden dragon lions become your descendants when you're a ram lion from the demon realm?" "Meng, you knave. Now that things have come to this point, I don't fear telling you this," Thackeray said icily. "We, the golden dragon lions, are descendants that the Grandmaster left behind when he was traveling in Heaven's Vault continent 80,000 years ago. Within our veins flow the pure and noble blood of the Grandmaster." "I see." Meng nodded slowly. "No wonder the golden dragon lions are so cruel. So you're a devil's offspring. Since that's the case, then it's just as well that I stamp all of you out at the same time. Lowly worm, I walk unobstructed in the demon realm and rule over the lives and deaths of 1 trillion people. Don't you know that worms like you are only worthy of becoming my snack?" "Is that so?" In an aloof and dispassionate voice, Meng said, "Show me your fangs and let me see whether they're really that sharp. Then, having a death wish? I'll satisfy you then." The ram lion let out a low roar. Demonic aura churned around it and morphed into huge and sharp blood-red claws that swiped toward Meng at extremely high speed, reaching him in an instant. Insignificant tricks. Meng vanished from where he was right away. By the time he reappeared, he had already bizarrely shown up in front of Thackeray, making sacrificial offerings out of 1,000,000 lives and cruelly killing 10,000 young children. The sins of the golden dragon lions are unforgivable. Devoid of any expression, Meng voice was cold and imposing as he said, "Today, I shall erase this sinful clan from the face of the earth, so as to appease the souls of those innocents. We'll start with you." Whoosh! A golden light flashed past. Thackeray's right arm flew into the sky right away. Scarlet-red blood spurted like a fountain, dyeing the skies, as well as the ground, red. Whoosh! Yet another golden light flashed past, and Thackeray's left arm also flew into the sky. Severe pain assaulted him, and Thackeray let out a shrill, miserable scream. "How dare you!" The ram lion felt insulted by the sight of Meng abusing and killing Thackeray right in front of it. It couldn't help but fly into a terrible rage, letting out a roar into the sky. Roar! Roiling sound waves spread outward, as if it was merely made out of paper. The void in the surroundings splintered and broke inch by inch, turning into black holes. Meng who received the brunt of it, was blasted away by the violent sound waves while Bubbles, Klaus, and the others also threw up blood as they were sent flying. The golden dragon lions in the vicinity fared even worse. Those who were nearby exploded into mists of blood, while those who were far away suffered heavy injuries, blood spurting violently from their mouths. To think a single roar's might is actually this powerful. Meng suppressed his churning blood and energy flow as he remarked, as expected of a demon realm's demon lord that can rival a true god. Despite this, Meng was exceptionally excited. This was his first time facing off with a true god. So how could he possibly not be? Low-end existential planes, space-time dimensions sure are fragile. Just a soft roar is enough to break the void. The gigantic ram lion twisted its neck side to side, producing crisp-sounding cracks as it did so. And the gravity, too. It's much lower than the demon realms. I wonder how fast a speed I can reach here. Kill him, Grandmaster. Hurry and kill him. Now that both of Thackeray's arms had been severed, he practically hated Meng with a burning passion, and he began to bellow furiously. Don't worry. He won't live past another few seconds. A slight smile appeared on the ram lion's visage, and it instantly vanished from where it was. It moved about like a ghost, its speed lightning quick. By the time it reappeared, it was already right in front of Meng. I'm going to swallow you up, little worm. The ram lion opened its cavernous jaws, and a pungent odor rushed toward Meng as it tried to gobble him up. Whoosh! Meng form flickered, and he teleported behind the ram lion. A blood-red scythe abruptly appeared in his hand. It was the Grim Reaper scythe. Eat me? That'll depend on whether your teeth are sharp enough or not. Meng brandished the Grim Reaper scythe. With a rip, the scythe sliced across the ram lion's back and made a deep cut. Ah! The ram lion let out a cry, becoming both alarmed and furious at the same time. However, when it saw the Grim Reaper scythe in Meng hands, a look of shock and fear appeared in its eyes, and it stammered, The Grim Reaper scythe? Bingo! I'll reward you with another slash. Meng broke into a grin. Then, he teleported to the ram lion's abdomen and swung the scythe down again. Splurt! This move of his practically couldn't get any dirtier, because he didn't aim it at anywhere else but the gigantic ram lion's enormous shaft. A flash of blood later, the incredibly huge treasure was cut off right at the base. Ah! Intense pain assaulted the ram lion's nerves, and it let out a heart-wrenching cry. It jumped up and down in pain while pungent and foul-smelling black blood sprayed everywhere. Bam! At this point, the precious treasure that had been cut off crashed onto the ground, emitting a dull bam as it landed. Everyone's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets at the sight of this. That's that thing. You worm. Goddamn worm. You. The gigantic ram lion had also realized that its precious treasure used to continue the ancestral line was gone. It was so furious that it almost passed out. Hate filled its heart. So much so that even all the water in the rivers and lakes couldn't wash it away. I want you dead. I want you dead. Demonic aura that surged the high heavens burst forth from the ram lion. As though an erupting volcano, vast, majestic demonic might instantly swept outward in every direction, capable of dealing a devastating blow any moment. However, Meng didn't give it any chances at all. He teleported right in front of the ram lion. Then, with the Grim Reaper scythe in hand, he aimed it right at its neck and swung it down mercilessly. Splurt! The Grim Reaper scythe was simply too sharp. Without a single obstruction standing in its way, it sliced right across the gigantic ram lion's throat. A 2-meter-deep line of blood appeared at its throat right away. As though a breached dam, blood spurted and cascaded from the wound, dyeing the square black. Roar! The ram lion let out another tragic cry. The demonic might that it had only just charged up instantly doused. However, its neck was simply too thick, so the blow didn't manage to sever its head from its body. This scythe, it's so sharp. Bubbles, Klaus, and the other 2 half-deities were incredibly astounded by the sight. The gigantic ram lion had clearly already advanced beyond the level of a half-deity to reach the level of a true god. One must know that that was a true god. Just how strong and powerful an existence was that. Moreover, it was common for demonic races to possess strong and mighty physiques. The ram lion was even a true god, so its demonic body must have been even stronger and mightier. Yet the blood-red scythe had easily cut through it. So, just how sharp must the blood-red scythe have been? Master simply has too many divine weapons. Klaus couldn't resist sighing wistfully. Bubbles and the other two also nodded, agreeing with his statement wholeheartedly. The god-slaying spear, the hammer of destruction, the blood-red machete, and now the blood-red scythe that made a grand total of 4 divine weapons. How thoroughly enviable. The Grandmaster is actually not his match. A dazed Thackeray stood where he was, his limbs icy and cold. He'd initially thought that by summoning the true god-level Grandmaster, dealing with Meng would be a piece of cake. Yet the outcome had actually turned out like this. Not only was it unable to kill Meng, but he even totally thrashed it. Why is this happening? Thackeray felt as if he had fallen into an abyss. He's just a newly ascended 16-years-old half-deity. Why is he this strong? Why exactly is that? Devil from the demon realm, Heaven's Vault continent, isn't a place where you should be. As though a grim reaper that had descended upon the mortal world, Meng stepped through the air with the blood-red scythe in his hand. Today, I shall send you back to the demon realm. At the sound of what he said, the ram lion was frightened out of its wits at once. It wanted to build a dimensional channel and return to the demon realm right away. However, Meng movements were faster, and the blood-red scythe instantly slashed across its throat. Splurt! Its carotid artery severed. Blood spurted everywhere. At once, the ram lion's eyes widened dramatically, and indignation, hatred, disbelief, and various other complex emotions flashed across its eyes. I, a great demon lord, have actually died in the hands of a low-end existential plane's native half-deity? Boom! The light in the ram lion's eyes gradually dimmed, and its massive carcass crashed onto the ground with a deafening boom. A divine core glittering with a black divine shine flew out of the ram lion's head at this point and shot toward the far distance. Thinking of fleeing? Meng let out an icy laugh and instantly vanished from where he was. The next second, he caught the black divine core in his hand. Let go of me, human! The ram lion's mad, furious roars rang out from within the divine core. These were energy fluctuations produced by its divine spirit. Since you're here, then don't bother leaving. Meng smiled calmly and sent the divine core into the Tower of Time along the way. Then, he said, Dodola, process this divine core for me. Where did you get this divine core? Dodola was rather puzzled. I've just killed a devil, Meng answered truthfully. This is a true god-level demon lord divine core. You've actually managed to kill it. Dodola was filled with disbelief. I used the Grim Reaper scythe. Dodola fell silent at once. Only after a brief moment did it say, You'd best not use the Grim Reaper scythe so frequently. That thing is too unholy. Unholy? I find it very easy to use. Meng gave a patronizing reply before landing on the ground outside. He shouted, Thackeray! Meng! Yes, sir. Fear and horror filled Thackeray, and his legs began to shake. His eyes were filled with terror as he looked at Meng. I knew you had another divine incarnation the moment I killed your other divine incarnation the last time. That's why I'm here, but never would I have thought that you'd be this cruel. Meng voice was calm and tranquil as he said, Using 1,000,000 people as sacrificial offerings just to summon that devil, and gathering another 100,000 toddlers as food just to please it. Your actions are perverse to the extreme and practically worse than a beast's. The heavens cannot condone such heinous actions and your existence. Spare me, sir. Thackeray dropped onto his knees with a thud and began to loudly beg for mercy. He said, I'm willing to submit. Submit? If I spare your life, who's going to spare the lives of those 1,000,000 people and those 100,000 toddlers? With a cold and aloof expression on his face, Meng said, Bubbles, Klaus, Nadia, and Scythe. Master! The four of them hurriedly bowed. Go! Make this wicked clan disappear from heaven's vault continent. Meng ordered. Whether male or female, young or old, spare not a single one of them. Yes, master. The four of them left to carry out their orders. For a while, screams rose and fell as they rang out, and the odor of blood filled the place. As for you, Meng gazed at Thackeray and said, You like to associate with devils, don't you? I'll satisfy you. Then, Meng connected to the demon realm and summoned tens of thousands of devils, including Gabriel the fire demon overlord, whom he had just subdued. As the strongest devil among them, the fire demon overlord bowed and asked, My noble master, what is your command? Eat him. Meng pointed at Thackeray and said calmly, Remember, don't give him such an easy death. Don't worry, master. I know what I should do. The fire demon overlord licked its lips, bloodthirstiness flashing across its eyes as it gazed at Thackeray, who had already started to shake like a leaf a long while ago. As a devil, it loved delicious human flesh the most. Moreover, this was even a half-deity's flesh. I won't disturb you guys then. Meng turned, left the square, and headed toward the golden dragon lion's treasury. Little ones, you're in for a treat. Don't fight. Don't be so anxious. Come one by one. Everyone gets a bite each. Don't any of you take any more than that. The fire demon overlord shouted. If anyone dares to take any extra bites, see if I don't rip you apart. Yes, fire demon overlord. No, don't come over. Don't come. Instead, he found the golden dragon lion's treasury and began a new round of ransacking. As the Golden Archipelago's local tyrant, even though the Golden Dragon Lion's treasury wasn't as amply stocked as the Dragon God Empire and the Titan Empire's treasuries, it wasn't that bad, either. The gold coins and laws of nature origin crystals alone brought Meng earnings of almost 10 million laws of nature origin crystals. There were also innumerable other treasures. Meng didn't stand on ceremony at all. He packed them all up and made a killing. By the time he exited the treasury, more than an hour had already passed. At this point, all that was left of Thackeray was just a pile of ghastly bones. His death was a very sad and tragic one. All of you did great. Meng praised the devils. Then, he sent all the devils, apart from the fire demon overlord, into the Tower of Time and kept them there as a show of his gratitude. As for the fire demon overlord, he was sent back to the demon realm. For a moment, Meng was the only one left in the enormous square, which now seemed empty and deserted. Intending to have a little something to eat, Meng casually went into one of the palaces. Flames were ignited, and the aroma of soup wafted about. A short while later, a rich aroma rushed toward Meng and he picked up a piece of divine pork with his chopsticks and sent it into his mouth. How fragrant! How spicy! Practically couldn't feel any better. System. Carry out 1,000 limitless pickups. Whoosh! His wealth shrank by 1,000 laws of nature origin crystals. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained Shaq Bryant's ring. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a divine core. Will you assimilate it? It's a dark elemental one again. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a fusion laws of nature fragment. Will you assimilate it? Yes, assimilate it. An earth-wind fusion laws of nature fragment this time? Not bad, not bad. I'll boost it to 100%. Another 1,000 times. Another 1,000 times. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained an elemental heart. An elemental heart? What the heck is that? Meng was surprised. A fiery red, goose egg-shaped crystal then appeared on his palm. The crystal gave off rich fire elemental energy fluctuations and was astonishingly hot. Meng could feel a scorching, boiling heat coming from it as he held it in his hand. A puzzled Meng asked, "What's an elemental heart, Dodola?" "It's an elemental being's egg. Of course, you can also call it an elemental being's fetus. As long as the environmental conditions are suitable, it'll be able to nurture and birth an elemental being," answered Dodola. An elemental being's egg? Meng understood now. Elemental beings were unusual life forms that differed from flesh and blood beings. They were born in unique environments such as elemental existential planes. Because they had no physical forms, or rather, their bodies were purely formed from the elements, elemental beings usually possessed incredible abilities. A fire elemental being. After a moment's consideration, Meng tossed the elemental heart into a volcano on the Tower of Time's 91st level. Then, he brought out a pile of fire elemental crystals and made a magical energy-gathering magic circle. I've done everything that I should. Whether or not you're born into the world will depend on what fate has in store for you. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a fusion laws of nature fragment. Will you assimilate it? It's a water-fire fusion laws of nature fragment this time. I'll boost it to 100%. 2. Another 1,000 times. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a Thunder Elemental Fairy's corpse. A Thunder Elemental Fairy? With a thought from Meng, a gorgeous and peerlessly beautiful fairy with violet skin and pointy ears appeared before him. So, this is a Thunder Elemental Fairy's corpse? Without any hesitation, Meng instructed, System, plunder her innate special ability, Thunder Elemental Transformation. Ding! Thunder Elemental Transformation is an innate special ability unique to the Thunder Elemental Fairies and belongs to the class of high-grade innate special abilities. The system stated coldly, the cost of plundering the innate special ability Thunder Elemental Transformation is estimated at 5 Laws of Nature Origin Crystals. 5 Laws of Nature Origin Crystals? Big deal. Plunder it. A brief moment later, Meng successfully obtained the Thunder Elemental Transformation ability. Several silver-colored electric currents darted out around him. As more and more electric currents appeared, his entire self turned into an electric current that darted about everywhere in the spacious palace at extremely high speed, making him no different from normal lightning. Meng resumed his human form a moment later, highly satisfied with the ability. He had yet another means of protecting his life and defending against the enemies now. What a cause for celebration. Continue with the pickups system. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a fusion laws of nature fragment. Will you assimilate it? Wood Earth? Boost it to 100%. System another 1,000 times. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a divine core. Will you assimilate it? This is a metal elemental lesser deity's divine core. Another 1,000 times. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a fusion laws of nature fragment. Will you assimilate it? It's a metal dark ice 1 this time. Metal dark ice. TSK. Are we heading in the direction of death laws of nature now? Another 1,000 times. Ding! Assimilation successful. You have obtained a soul ice marrow droplet. Will you assimilate it? Soul ice marrow? What's this? Where did you hear about the soul ice marrow from? Dodola was greatly astonished. Soul ice marrows are treasures of the highest grade that can enhance one's divine spirit. It's extremely rare, so much so that you can only hope to come by it with luck, rather than actively searching for it. A treasure of the highest grade that can enhance one's divine spirit? Meng perked up. A single droplet of the soul ice marrow allows a half-deity's divine spirit to cross over to the lesser deity stage. With enough of them, they can be of great use even to higher deities. A sighing Dodola then said, It's just a shame that soul ice marrows are non-renewable resources. Every bit used is every bit less. It's even scarcer than crystallized divine spirit extracts. This thing has a flaw, though. After one consumes the soul ice marrow, their divine spirit will freeze and go into hibernation. It'll only thaw a year later. That's how it got its name, soul ice marrow. The divine spirit can cross over from a half-deity stage to the lesser deity stage. This effect practically defies all natural laws. Meng eyes lit up, and he promptly consumed the soul ice marrow droplet. He didn't pay any attention to the latter half of what Dodola said at all. The soul ice marrow was a transparent liquid that looked similar to an ice crystal. It gave off a faint, icy cold glow, and Meng Lei felt chilly just by looking at it alone. As the soul ice marrow entered his stomach, a bone-chilling iciness rushed straight to his head. Meng Lei felt his mind go blank, and then he lost all consciousness. At the same time, an endless, chilly, white current also surged into Meng Lei's sea of consciousness. Within a mere few moments, his sea of consciousness turned into a world of whiteness. It had actually been completely sealed in ice. Similarly, the golden divine spirit flame in the center of his sea of consciousness wasn't spared either. It was also sealed in ice in mid-air, becoming still and motionless. Meng Lei, why have you gone silent again? Aren't you being a little too disrespectful? Rather displeased at Meng Lei's lack of response even after half a day, Dodola extended its consciousness out of the Tower of Time, only to see Meng Lei sitting cross-legged on the ground, his eyes widened big and round, yet there weren't any spiritual movements from him at all. Is he dead? What the heck? Dodola almost wet itself in fear, and it quickly darted out of the Tower of Time to check on him. Only after a moment later did it breathe a sigh of relief. Oh my goodness! That almost scared me to death. As it turned out, your divine spirit was just frozen. I almost thought you had croaked. From the look of things, he's probably consumed the soul ice marrow. Strange, where did he get that from? Did he steal it from the Tower of Time? That shouldn't be the case, though. I've hidden the treasures in a very secretive and inconspicuous place. Most people can't get in there at all. Never mind, never mind. This guy has always been acting all mysterious. Who knows where he got the soul ice marrow from? Dodola then returned to the Tower of Time, though it also set aside a sliver of its divine spirit to watch over Meng Lei. Given Meng Lei's divine body's degree of sturdiness, few within Heaven's Vault continent could harm him, but one could never be too careful. Dodola didn't want a great heir like Meng Lei to die. The resulting loss would be too great to bear if that were to happen. Bubbles, Klaus, and the other two half-deities returned 2 days after Meng Lei went into hibernation. They then found Meng Lei, who was in one of the palaces. Without Meng Lei to look after it, the boiling hot pot had already totally gone cold. Meng Lei himself was seated right next to it. The four of them bowed and said, "The golden dragon lions have been completely wiped out, Master. We've especially come to report the completion of the mission." However, there was no response. Puzzled, they repeated what they said, but there was still no response from Meng Lei. This greatly confused them. They then raised their heads, only to see Meng Lei looking at them with his eyes open. Yet there was no light within them. He looked just like a puppet. "Master!" The four of them carefully called out, "Master!" Still no response whatsoever. What's going on? The four of them were rather confused. Could Master be asleep? That's impossible, right? Sleeping with his eyes open. He's in the midst of cultivation now. Don't disturb him. Right at this point, a fearsome aura suddenly descended, and a wave of divine spirit energy fluctuations rang out after that, frightening the four of them so badly that they shuddered. The force of the aura was simply too frightful. In front of it, the four half-deities felt just like ants at the feet of a colossal dragon, extremely insignificant. The same divine spirit energy fluctuation rang out again. "Your master is currently cultivating. Before he comes out of seclusion, everyone is forbidden from disturbing him." Yes, yes. Not daring to dawdle and show any disrespect, the four of them hastily left the palace. The fearsome aura also disappeared at this point, and they couldn't help but let out a breath of relief, only to discover that their backs were already drenched in perspiration. Who was that just now? That was too scary. Don't ask. Don't speculate. A presence like that isn't something that we can be privy to. Yes, yes. You're right. What should we do now? Stand guard obediently. Didn't you hear that Master is currently in seclusion? All right. Just like that, the four half-deities obediently stood guard outside the palace, not daring to take even a step away. However, as days passed one by one, Meng Lei didn't come out of the palace. Instead, it was the Golden Archipelago that began to sink into chaos. Without the golden dragon lions suppressing them, all the ambitious players emerged one after another. The golden archipelago gradually became chaotic and unbearable to behold, entering a state of turmoil. At the sight of the chaos, the four half-deities knew that this mustn't continue. If Meng were to come out of seclusion to see the golden archipelago in such a chaotic state, wouldn't he fly into a thundering rage? Now that the golden dragon lions have been wiped out, the golden archipelago has become leaderless. The people's faith has been lost, and the place is currently in social unrest. It is exactly the time to build a new order and new faith, Klaus suggested. Therefore, we must do something now. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer to Master when he comes out of seclusion. Bubbles, Nadia, and Scythe nodded repeatedly. We can make use of this time while Master's in seclusion to spread his faith. That's right. We'll strive to convert the 10 billion citizens of the Golden Archipelago into Master's most loyal worshippers before he comes out of seclusion. Since that's the case, then let's split up and get to it. All right. Innumerable strong and wealthy ambitious players with substantial backgrounds rose one after another. Saint domains that had holed up in the past emerged. Powerful clans bared their fangs. Wealthy merchants and tycoons also began to run rampant and wreak havoc. For a while, all sorts of rogues and monsters ran wild in the Golden Archipelago, and the lives of the people living on the islands became even harder than during the Golden Dragon Lion's reign itself. There were endless grievances as people fell into the abyss of suffering. Chaos ran amok as disasters and calamities broke out one after another. How could the word suffering even begin to describe it all? On the Blazing Sun Island. The Blazing Sun Island was famous for producing in abundance a type of mineral called the Blazing Sun ore, which was used as core materials in the forging of weapons. In order to extract the Blazing Sun ores on the island, the Golden Dragon Lions had divided and conferred the Blazing Sun Island upon an affiliated family, the Blazing Sun Clan, to guard them. With the Blazing Sun Island located to their backs and put in charge of mining ores for weapon forgery, the Blazing Sun Clan had accumulated vast strength over the years and was a big, top-notch clan in the whole of the Golden Archipelago. In the Blazing Sun Clan's conference hall, the conference hall was packed with people on this day. The Blazing Sun Clan's directors, elites, and executive officers of various islands had all gathered in the hall and were currently plotting something big. Grandmaster, over the days, we've conquered a total of 23 islands, such as the Sing-Off Island, Elephant Island, Garment Island, and various other islands. We've also recruited 79,237 experts who are 4-grade and above, and a total of 348 magicians. The Blazing Sun Clan's turf and strength have become a notch even stronger. The only problem we're facing now is food supplies. It's enough to last only 10 days. 10 days. Liang Wenjian, the Blazing Sun Clan's grandmaster, sat at the top, his brows drawn together into a big frown. He said, "Food supplies are essential to our development and strengthening process. We absolutely mustn't be short on them." Grandmaster is right. The current situation is looking highly favorable for us. We've been conquering 5 islands, hundreds of thousands of people, and hundreds, almost 1,000, of experts every day. We absolutely mustn't be halted. That's right. Once we're halted, these islands will fall into the hands of other forces. It'll be hard for us to take them back in the future. The Blazing Sun Clan has everything we can possibly need. Manpower, weapons, and experts. This is an extremely rare opportunity for us. How can we let it slip past us just because of food supplies? The Blazing Sun Clan's directors spoke up one after another. Liang Zhan also nodded lightly. He said, "Now that the Golden Archipelago is leaderless, it is an opportunity for the Blazing Sun Clan to rise. We mustn't let such a good opportunity slip by us." Grandmaster is right. Everyone nodded. The Blazing Sun Clan boasted top-notch power. They were qualified to sit in the most supreme position and become the second Golden Dragon Lion clan. Since that's the case, then let's resolve the problem of the food supplies. No matter what, our expansion efforts mustn't halt. Liang Zhan's eyes gleamed brightly. The The Food Prep clan in the southeast owns an abundance of food supplies, despite their low population. It's exactly where we should obtain our food supplies from. At this point, Liangzhan barked fiercely, "Hear my command! Gather all the elites in the clan and seize ships. 3 days later, we shall attack and conquer the Food Prep Island in one go, and take the Food Prep clan's properties." Brilliant plan, Grandmaster. We'll carry out the Grandmaster's orders. As per the Grandmaster's decision, the Blazing Sun clan's directors echoed him in high spirits. Unexpectedly, a fearsome and mighty aura suddenly descended from above at this point and bore down on their hearts like a great mountain. Boom! It came as no surprise that everyone, including Liangzhan, the Saint Domain Grandmaster, was flattened to the ground, their legs shaking violently as shock and fear filled them. Divine power. This is divine power. Liangzhan had met Thackeray, the Golden Dragon Lion's Grandmaster, more than once before and had naturally experienced what divine power felt like before. The divine power he was currently feeling was even more terrifying and mightier than Thackeray's. Could Thackeray still be alive? Shocked and horrified, Liangzhan almost died from fright. Should Thackeray really still be alive, their actions would be no different from staging a rebellion or a coup. Given the Golden Dragon Lion's way of doing things, they would definitely torture them to death and annihilate the entire clan. Why is this happening? Isn't Thackeray dead? Liangzhan was filled with shock and horror. Listen up, all those at the bottom. Just as Liangzhan was so terrified that both his legs had given out on him, a voice filled with endless dignified might rang out. I order the strongest expert in your clan to head to the Golden Dragon Lion continent within 3 days to discuss important matters. If you do not show up, all of you will die, and your clan will be wiped out with not a single creature left alive. The voice disappeared right after the owner of the voice spoke. What disappeared along with it was also the terrifying divine power. Only then did Liangzhan and the Blazing Sun clan's directors get back onto their feet, trembling as they did so, their faces full of fear and alarm. Gee, Grandmaster, was that a half-deity just now? A Blazing Sun clan director quivered as he asked, could Thackeray still be alive? No, that divine power was several times more fearsome than Thackeray's. It's not very likely to be him. If it's not Thackeray, then could it be the half-deity that had killed Thackeray and wiped out the Golden Dragon Lions? Highly likely. Of course, we can't strike out the likelihood that it's a half-deity that's passing by the Golden Archipelago, either. Oh my God! Why has another half-deity popped up out of nowhere? What are we going to do about the Blazing Sun clan's emergence plan? Everyone was passing remarks on the situation, yet Grandmaster Liangzhan had stayed silent. They couldn't help but look over in puzzlement, only to see his countenance looking terribly awful. What's the matter, Grandmaster? What's the matter? Liangzhan had a grim look on his face. Didn't you hear what that half-deity said just now? The strongest expert in the clan is to head to the Golden Dragon Lion continent within 3 days to discuss important matters. Who does the strongest expert in the Blazing Sun clan refer to? Isn't that obvious? It's you, the Grandmaster, of course. What are we supposed to do now? You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Then, Liangzhan gave them a resigned smile and said, unless the Blazing Sun clan wishes to be annihilated, I'll have to go. But the problem is, what will I have to face once I'm there? All the directors fell silent at once. The most optimal scenario is that half-deity has nothing to do with the Golden Dragon Lions, but has instead taken an interest in the Golden Archipelago's faith and is intending to fight for it. With a wry laugh, Liangzhan went on. If that's the case, then another Golden Dragon Lion clan would surface in the Golden Archipelago. All of the Blazing Sun clan's previous efforts will all be for naught. A couple of Saint Domains quickly asked, what about the worst possible scenario? The worst scenario is that Thackeray's the half-deity. How that would turn out requires no further explanation from me. The same scene unfolding in the Blazing Sun clan was also taking place on the other Golden Archipelago islands. All the ambitious players who had originally been intent on greatness practically laid down their flags and fell silent overnight. Conquest? Not anymore. Expansion? Not anymore. Social unrest? Not anymore. All the experts, forces, and clans were as obedient as a puppet as they holed up in their bases. Right on the heels of it, the strongest experts and the people holding the highest power in these forces began to head toward the Golden Dragonlion continent without even a moment's rest. In under 3 days' time, all of them had assembled at the Golden Dragonlion continent and gathered at the Golden Dragonlion's base with not a single one fewer or a single clan missing. No one dared to defy or challenge a half-deity's order. But what shocked and horrified them even more was that upon arrival at the Golden Dragonlion's base, they didn't see just one half-deity but four half-deities stood proudly in the sky above the Golden Dragonlion's base. They gave off as much vast, majestic divine power as they wanted and wantonly abused their souls, almost scaring them half-dead. Ambition? Great aspirations? Replacement? Gone. Gone. All gone. The only thing they had left was just endless fear and unease. We have 3 reasons for summoning all of them here today. Bubbles' gaze swept across everyone present as his voice boomed in their ears like the rolling thunder. Firstly, it's to inform all of you who the one that killed Thackeray, annihilated the Golden Dragonlions, and saved all of you from the sea of suffering is. He's our great, noble master and the most supreme, great god Meng. Boom! With a wave from Bubbles, a 100,000 feet tall statue of Meng appeared out of nowhere. It instantly stood towering in the square, producing a grand boom. Everyone was stunned for a moment as they stared at the divine statue that had abruptly appeared. Then, they bowed down to it at once, all sorts of words of immense gratitude flowing endlessly and eternally like the gushing, flooding rivers beyond one's control. Thank you for saving our lives, great god Meng. I thank the noble great god Meng for saving us from the sea of suffering and allowing us to be human again, such that the evil Golden Dragonlion's servants no longer oppress us. I thank the supreme great god Meng. You're the light that chases away loneliness and lights up my hopes. You're the tea that filters out my impetuousness and helps me to retain my calm. You're the water that hydrates and nourishes me for a moment so as to preserve my freshness for a lifetime. You're the sugar that waters down the bitterness and fills me with sweetness. Secondly, all of your recent actions have greatly angered the great god Meng. He's terribly furious. Bubbles could hardly contain his fury. The noble great god Meng is a benevolent and humble existence that holds universal love for all of mankind, has compassion for the weak and abhors evilness. He had exterminated Thackeray and annihilated the Golden Dragonlions in order to save all of you from the sea of suffering. What a merciful and benevolent god he is. But what about all of you? Showing blatant disregard for the toiling masses' lives, wantonly engaging in slaughter, and creating chaos. You've thrown the Golden Archipelago into a state of turmoil where calamities wreak havoc everywhere. Bubbles glared at them, his vast divine power overflowing. Do you own up to your sins? Yes. Yes, we do. Forgive us for our sins, great God. We have seen the error of our ways and will definitely correct them. The group of people was so frightened that they shook like leaves. They kowtowed incessantly as they begged for mercy, fearful to the extreme. A fault confessed is half redressed. On account of how this is a first offense for all of you, he can let bygones be bygones. What's important is what you do next, Bubbles shouted. Do you need the great god Meng to specially instruct you on what you should be doing from now on?
No.
We know what we should do. Good to hear that. Bubbles nodded in satisfaction. Then he said, thirdly, this isn't the great god Meng's decision, but the 4 of ours. You can just use it as a casual reference. Your orders, please, sir. Bubbles said dispassionately. The great god Meng has done so much for the Golden Archipelago. Shouldn't all of you show some gratitude in order to repay his great kindness? Show some gratitude? Yes. We get it. We get everything. Since you do, then get lost. The 4 of us will inspect the Golden Archipelago again a month from now. If your actions do not satisfy us, your life will be taken as punishment in less severe cases, while the whole clan will be wiped out for more serious cases. All of you had best keep that in mind. Yes, yes. Everyone then left in a hasty panic. Bubbles snorted lightly as he watched them from the back. These guys will never behave if you don't scare them a little. What happens next will now depend on what they choose to do. Of course, we can't stay idle either. We'll have to create a few disasters and then make a few displays of divine intervention in Master's name. Only when we attack the problem from two angles at the same time can we successfully establish and build power of faith. Yes, that's what we should do. Liangzhan heaved a long sigh. He said with a shake of his head, "The Blazing Sun clan won't be annihilated, but our emergence plan can now be considered a complete failure." Liangzhan recounted everything that had taken place on the Golden Dragon Lion continent right away, upon which everyone broke out in cold sweat, lingering fear filling their hearts. Half-deities, and 4 of them at that. The mysterious great god Meng lay, too. They were the ones that had killed Thackeray and annihilated the Golden Dragon Lions. For half-deities, how laughable of us to even think of taking the opportunity to emerge as a power, replace the Golden Dragon Lions, and become the new masters of the Golden Archipelago. What a gross overestimation of our own capabilities. Totally. The Blazing Sun clan would probably have followed in the Golden Dragon Lion's footsteps and been wiped out by them before we can even emerge. That's enough. Say no more, Liangzhan said with an awful look on his face. What's most pressing is to tide over the crisis right before us now. Otherwise, the clan will still face the threat of annihilation. Yes, yes, Grandmaster is right. Everyone nodded hurriedly. After all, according to the Grandmaster, the 4 half-deities were going to do an inspection in a month's time. Should they be dissatisfied, they would still have to die regardless. A worried director asked, "What should the clan do now, Grandmaster?" "I've discussed this with the other clan's grandmasters while on the way back," Liangzhan said in a low, deep voice. Half-deities are totally above run-of-the-mill treasures. What they really place importance in is power of faith. Power of faith? That's right, power of faith. Liangzhan nodded heavily. Isn't power of faith the exact reason why the Golden Dragon Lions had occupied the Golden Archipelago? Therefore, we can start with power of faith. Just tell us what we should do, Grandmaster. We'll do exactly what you say. Yes, for the sake of the clan's survival, we'll listen to everything the Grandmaster says. Since the great god Meng Lei places great importance on power of faith, then we'll help to spread his faith. In summary, construct temples and statues. Liangzhan instructed gravely. Pass down the order. Everyone is to collect timber, stone, gold, and other materials and construct temples and statues on every island. Get all the magicians in the clan to help out. We'll strive to build a temple and construct a statue on every island within 10 days. On the day that the temples are completed, we, the Blazing Sun clan, shall take the lead to pray to the great god Meng Lei. We'll be a good role model and do everything we can to spread his faith. Yes, sir. Just like that, a large-scale temple construction project was launched. This wasn't just limited to the Blazing Sun clan's turf. Other islands were also building temples. The rich and powerful clans were no longer warring, no longer seizing food supplies and weaponry, and no longer recruiting warships and soldiers, to the common people's astonishment. Instead, they were building temples. What kind of situation is this? I have no idea. Under the common people's puzzled eyes, and in fewer than 10 days, temples worshipping the great god Meng Lei started to sprout like mushrooms after rain. Large temples were constructed on large islands, while small temples were constructed on small islands. Every temple housed a statue each. One must admit that the magicians of this world could really be said to be the world's best architectural construction experts. In under 10 days, the Golden Archipelago was filled with temples. Their efficiency was truly flabbergasting. After the temples were built, large forces like the Blazing Sun clan took the lead to pray to Meng Lei. Some families went even further, conducting small prayer ceremonies every 3 days and big ones every 7 days. They were more passionate in praying to Meng Lei than to their own fathers and ancestors. Although their passion was somewhat too over the top, they nevertheless achieved excellent results as role models. Several dubious islanders also attempted worshipping the new god, and then, incredible things happened. Those with disabilities were cured. Those with illnesses recovered. Those facing fertility issues became pregnant. The marine beasts that frequently attacked the islands and gave the people a huge headache also disappeared. The islanders were incredibly poverty-stricken from the start. Thus, these efficacious incidents brought about astounding effects. More and more residents entered the temples and started to pray to the great god Meng for various things. For a while, Meng's faith took root and sprouted in every island, gradually beginning to develop and strengthen. A month later, 20% of the islanders had become Meng's worshippers. 2 months later, the number increased to 40%. A year later, the number reached a frightening 70%. How much was 70%? Out of 10 billion islanders, 7 billion of them worshipped Meng. This number was even bigger than the total population on Earth. The 4 half-deities were highly satisfied with the results. After laboring for a good half a year, they were finally seeing results. Their efforts hadn't gone to waste. The only problem was that Meng still hadn't awakened. This sorely disappointed the 4 half-deities. They were just like children who had done well, eager for Meng's acknowledgement. Of course, if it pleased him, it would be even better if Meng could bestow a little something or two upon them. In the Golden Dragon Lion's palace, a year had passed. The ice that had frozen Meng's whole sea of consciousness gradually melted. At last, only a lump of ice surrounding the divine spirit flame remained. Crack, crack. All of a sudden, a crisp sound rang out. Tiny, densely packed cracks formed on the surface of the large ice lump, freezing the divine spirit flame. As more and more cracks started to form, boom! The ice lump exploded violently. The divine spirit flame started to blaze once more, and the soul ice marrow that had melted integrated itself into the golden divine spirit flame all at once. Boom! As though it had been doused with a few buckets of petrol. The divine spirit flame instantly erupted and started to surge and blaze even more exuberantly, fiercely and fervently. Boom! At the same time, a terrifying spiritual might also spread outward from Meng, instantly sweeping through the entire Golden Dragon Lion's base. Master! The 4 half-deities standing guard outside jumped in shock, almost flattened to the ground. The force of the aura was simply too fearsome. It felt rather unbearable, as though a great, lofty mountain was weighing down on them. Master has become even stronger. The 4 half-deities exchanged a look, a sense of mortification coming over them. Previously, Meng could already slay even a true god-level demon lord with his blood-red scythe. Yet now he had gotten stronger again. His speed of improvement was practically horrifying. Improve? He had indeed improved. As the person involved himself, Meng could sense this the clearest. He could clearly feel the change in his divine spirit. It wasn't just 100 times more powerful than before. When he spread his divine spirit outward, it could easily cover several thousand miles of where he was. Nothing within the range could escape his divine spirit's inspection. There was practically nowhere to hide. My divine spirit has actually gone from the pinnacle grade half-deity stage to the mid-grade lesser deity stage. This level of improvement is truly rather dramatic. A smile appeared on Meng's visage as he gazed at his stats interface. He was very satisfied with his upgrade this time. Host: Meng race. Human, primeval bloodline. Primordial human, 16%. Assimilated bloodlines. God-slaying rat. Divine netherworld phoenix. 100-armed giant. Wealth: 64.41 million. Laws of nature. Origin crystals. Physical body constitution. Metal origin. Divine body, 1%. Spirit, lesser deity. Mid-grade power of divinity, 0.1. Divinity crystal. Laws of nature. Metal dark fusion, 100%. Water fire fusion, 100%. Earth wind fusion, 100%. Wood earth fusion, 100%. Fire thunder ice fusion, 0.1%. Earth wood thunder fusion, 0.1%. Metal dark ice fusion, 0.1%. Now that my divine spirit has strengthened so much, The cost of buying credit to assimilate laws of nature should be lower now, right? With that in mind, Meng promptly contacted the system. As expected, ding! Raising triple elemental laws of nature assimilation rate by 1% costs 100,000 laws of nature origin crystals. It has gone down by so much? Not bad, not bad. Meng rejoiced at the news. Previously, it had cost 1 million laws of nature origin crystals to raise the assimilation rate of triple elemental laws of nature, yet it cost only 100,000 laws of nature origin crystals now. Such a price was completely within an acceptable range. If raising it by 1% required 100,000 laws of nature origin crystals, then 100% would require 1 million laws of nature origin crystals. 1 million laws of nature origin crystals weren't a lot. Meng thought to himself, I'll wait before I raise it, though. When my divine spirit becomes even stronger, the price will definitely fall even further. It's not too late to buy credit again at that time. His gaze then shifted away from the stats interface and toward his sea of consciousness. As the blazing sun, his divine spirit flame was burning even more exuberantly and fiercely than before. A million golden rays lit up his boundless sea of consciousness, and attached all around his divine spirit were innumerable milky white threads. They were connected to his divine spirit flame like antennas. Dense and packed, their numbers were endless. So many threads of faith? Meng was rather taken aback. Even a modest estimate of the number of threads would put it at least a few billion. This would represent a few billion worshippers, but he didn't have a few billion worshippers? Bewildered, Meng connected to one of the threads of faith, and then he heard an aged and hoarse, but exceptionally pious voice. "Oh, the supreme great God Meng I am Constantine McCarrick. I'm going out to sea tomorrow. Please watch over me and let me return safely." He's a Golden Archipelago resident. Meng deduced the worshipper's background in an instant. Then, he picked another thread of faith and began to listen. "O noble and great lord, I am a worker at Zebra Island's pig farm. I am sick and tired of my current life. Please bless me and let me find a battle or a manual." Zebra Island? It's someone from the Golden Archipelago again. Meng checked the threads one by one and realized that all the worshippers were from the Golden Archipelago. He spread his divine cognition into the surroundings and saw several statues, as well as groups of worshippers on their way to pray to him. Meng found this very incredible. All he had done was obviously just having a night's sleep. That's right, a night's sleep, that was all. After consuming the soul ice marrow, he had gotten a good, comfortable night's sleep. The Golden Archipelago residents have become worshippers of me after a night's sleep? Isn't this a little too weird? No, power of faith can't possibly come about for no reason. Something must have happened. Knowing that his 4 half-deities subordinates were outside, Meng promptly summoned them for clarification. "Congratulations on completing your seclusion, Master." The 4 of them bowed respectfully. Meng looked at the 4 of them and asked, "What's up with the Golden Archipelago's power of faith?" "Master," a respectful Bubbles answered, "during this 1 year when you were in seclusion, we were very bored, so we decided to spread your faith a little. The effects are somewhat satisfactory. A year? A year has passed." A huge jolt went through Meng. He had only taken a rest, yet a year had passed. It wasn't like he was a pig. When did he become capable of sleeping such long hours? "Yes, Master." Bubbles nodded. Then he said with a smile, "Master, you needn't be puzzled. At a cultivation level like ours, even just a nap would see long periods of time passing, not to mention when your cultivation in seclusion." Meng nodded slowly. Then, with a wave, 4 divine powers appeared in his palm. They twinkled with black, silver, cyan, and gold divine glows, respectively, and gave off. The 4 half-deities were trembling with their eyes full of passion and desire upon the sight of the divine cores, like hungry wolves eyeing big, delicious sheep. "I've always rewarded merit and punished any wrongdoings. For the past year, you all have done an excellent job, and I'm very pleased. Thus, I must reward all of you." Meng waved casually, and the 4 divine cores flew toward the half-deities. The Dark Elemental Divine Core went to Bubbles. The Thunder Elemental Divine Core went to Scythe. The Wind Elemental Divine Core went to Nadia, and the Metal Elemental Divine Core went to Klaus. Now they're all yours. Meng Lei smiled. I've processed these 4 divine cores, so you all can assimilate with peace of mind that their original owners will not steal and occupy your bodies. Thank you, Master. The 4 knelt down immediately with strong emotions. Those were divine cores that their master actually bestowed to the 4 of them. This was simply an enormous favor. Just divine cores of lesser deities. Nothing significant. Meng Lei smiled faintly. As long as you all carry on your good service to me, intermediate deities' divine cores will be yours. Higher deities' divine cores will be yours too. We will work our fingers to the bones and do our very best. The 4 of them swore hurriedly. At that very moment, they felt that submitting to Meng Lei was the wisest decision they had ever made. Once they assimilated each lesser deity's divine core, they would be able to make that leap to become lesser deities. If it was in the past, they would never have imagined it happening to them. And now it was really about to happen. It was simply unbelievable. Now go. Assimilate your divine cores. Meng Lei waved his hands to kick them out of the palace. Right after that, Meng Lei went directly into the 96th level of the Tower of Time. After not seeing little Cola for more than a year, Meng Lei was a little worried. Meng Lei's divine cognition shrouded the entire 96th level, but he could not find little Cola. Meng Lei was dumbfounded and went straight to the 100th level. Dodola, where's Cola? Dodola was sleeping soundly when it was woken up abruptly. It was pissed off. Are you nuts? How am I supposed to sleep like this? Where is Cola? Meng Lei could not care less. Her? She's back in the demon realm ages ago. Dodola rubbed its sleepy eyes as it grunted. You have slept for more than a year. It would be weird if she did not leave. Back in the demon realm? A jolt went through Meng Lei's body. Why did she return to the demon realm? What happened? Obviously, she left on her own. Dodola rolled its eyes. It's been over 1 year. If she did not leave, then wouldn't she starve to death? Well, you don't have to worry too much. She's better off staying in the demon realm since she's a fallen angel. When did she leave? Why didn't you stop her? Meng Lei wasn't very pleased. Stop her? You want her to starve to death? Did I not tell you? Dodola carried on, his mouth twitching. Shortly after you slept, Cola had already finished consuming all the devils. Then she returned to the demon realm when I was unaware. Meng Lei went silent. The fallen angel was a demon herself who could naturally sense the demon realm. Since Cola really wanted to leave, she could not be stopped unless Dodola was on her tail. Not to mention with the food finished, she would have starved every day over here, so how could Dodola stop her? This won't do. I have to find her. Meng Lei closed his eyes and relocated his divine spirit to the demon realm, hoping to find her through their blood pact. A minute passed, 2 minutes passed, half an hour passed. Meng Lei could not sense any trace of Cola at all, as though she had disappeared in thin air. Can't sense anything? Dodola asked. Meng Lei shook his head. No, now that's normal. Dodola said lightly, the blood pact is the most primitive bloodline contract, not a spiritual contract, so once you're slightly further away, you can't sense anything. As for the demon realm, it's almost boundless. Little Cola could appear in any corner, so it would be stranger if you could actually sense her. Upon hearing this, Meng Lei was slightly relieved inside. Hope she's safe and sound. Rest assured. She'll be fine. Dodola shook its head. The fallen angel is a higher devil with astonishingly high cultivation speed. Plus, there's food and nourishment everywhere in the demon realm. Little Cola will surely venture into her own world. I hope so. Meng Lei sighed and left the Tower of Time. He started to stroll around on foot. Lousy mood. I'll just enjoy some sea breeze then. Firstly, the Golden Dragon Lion Island, then the Dragon Spring Island. Then Meng Lei lost his way. The Blue Afterglow Island, known for having plenty of water sources where the sun glows could form beautiful sceneries. Thus the name. The island was not massive, only a few kilometers. Due to its size, There were no permanent residents on the island, just the occasional fishing boats stopping by for freshwater supplies. On this day, a fishing boat full of patches on its sails stopped by the coastline as 3 fishermen got off the boat carrying buckets to refill fresh water on the island. "Oh, old Jack, you're here." The fishermen already on the island greeted the 3 newcomers. Everyone was a fisherman from the islands nearby, knowing each other for several decades. "Yep, I'm here." Old Jack was an old man in his 60s, and time had left marks on his dark, mottled face. Behind him was his son Little Jack and daughter-in-law, Claire. "Hey, old Jack, just let your son and daughter-in-law get the water, while we old dudes chat **tea and get some puffs." An old fisherman wearing a straw hat sitting on a rock nearby smiled with his prominent yellow teeth, holding a pipe. "Sure, mate." Old Jack passed his bucket to his son and sat before the rock. "What's up, old Buzz? How's your catch recently?" Don't talk about it. I'm raking in less and less every day." "That's really strange." The old man shook his head continuously. "Well, what about you?" "Mine is okay." The 2 old fellas talked. On old Jack's battered fishing boat sat a barefooted teenager who was diligently wiping a very ordinary harpoon. Big Brother Galen. A pretty teenage girl with a short burlap skirt walked over, holding onto a kettle. She smiled sweetly. "Big Brother Galen, drink some water." "Thanks, Helen." The teen known as Galen said his thanks and took a mouthful of water from the kettle. The sweet spring water entered his guts and moisturized his throat. "Sister, you're too biased. How could you only bring water to Big Brother Galen?" "Where's mine?" Out came a sturdy boy behind Galen, grunting in dissatisfaction. He was Farron, Helen's brother. Helen glared with her charming eyes and scoffed. "Big Brother Galen has been working hard all this while. What's wrong with me getting him water? Look at you, all you know is to play." "I'm working too, all right?" Farron puffed out his cheeks and huffed. "You're just forgetting loyalty when in love. Ever since Big Brother Galen came, all there is in your eyes is him. You're looking to die." Helen was flustered as her face turned red. She grabbed a salted fish that was hanging under the sun and posed like she was about to beat him. Farron screamed and ran to the other side of the boat. "Little brat, you're getting too bold." Helen glared at her little brother and carefully looked toward Galen. "Big Brother Galen." Farron was just speaking gibberish. "Don't mind him." "I won't." Galen smiled as he shook his head slightly. His handsome face was brimming with a warm smile. Helen's face went slightly red again as her heart pounded rapidly. "Bye, Big Brother Galen. Carry on with your work. I'm going to prepare today's meals." She escaped into the cabin right afterward. "This girl?" Galen smiled, shaking his head as he carried on wiping the harpoon. Farron popped out again and leaned toward Galen. "Big Brother Galen, let me tell you a secret. Don't tell my sister." "What thing could be so secretive?" Farron stole a glance at the cabin and lowered his volume. "Big Brother Galen, let me tell you that my sister likes you. You know? She likes you." Galen paused a little and smiled. "You mischievous little brat. You dare to make a fool of your sister? How about I tell her now?" "No, please don't," Farron pleaded. "If you tell her, she will skin me alive. But I'm serious. She really does like you. She would often peep at you while you're working and giggle around like she's lost her soul. Oh, and she even sleep-talked about you." "You're not going to stop talking, kid," Galen glared and said with a stern face. "If you carry on talking, then guess whether I would whip you?" Okay. Take it I never said that." Farron was quick to change the subject. "Anyway, Big Brother Galen, how do you fish with that? How did you pierce so accurately? Can you teach me?" "Now that's what a kid should be pondering about." Galen smiled again as he explained. "Harpooning has 2 keys. First, your power control. Second, having certain skills. So for your power, Big Brother Galen." An alluring aroma hung around in the air as the girl walked out with a delicious fish soup. Boom! Just then, a muffled yet vast dull noise came from afar as if millions of tanks were rumbling over in gigantic fashion. "What's that sound?" Galen, Farron, and Helen were alarmed as they stood up and looked over. All they could see on the sea was a mountainous wave 1,000 feet high. The enormous wave was like a wall shifting over. It was slow to the eye, yet so fast it could cover kilometers within a few breaths. Tsunami! Tsunami is coming! Helen's pretty face turned white quickly as she dropped the bowl of fish soup on the floor, while Farron was trembling in horror. Tsunami! It's a tsunami! Run! The people on the boats and ashore discovered the gigantic wave, and they hit the panic button like frightened deers. The fishermen abandoned their boats and ran straight to the island, hoping to survive by hiding there. We're so dead. It's no use running to the island. Blue Afterglow Island is too small to hide from such a huge tsunami. Old Jack mumbled to himself. Bye, big brother Galen. Tia, tsunami is coming. Helen's little body shivered with a horrified face. Indeed, a tsunami. Galen frowned slightly. We're dead. We're dead meat. Such a humongous tsunami would crush us into meat sauce. No, I don't want to die yet. I haven't gotten married. I haven't even touched a girl's hand. How can I die now? Oh, noble great god Meng, I heard you're very efficacious. Please bless me. At the sight of the gigantic wave towering over the island, some quivered, some burst in tears, some limped to the ground. Terror gripped, desperation inevitable. In front of the tsunami, humans were just too little. Big brother Galen. At this moment, Helen grabbed Galen's hand suddenly. Big brother Galen, there is something I wanted to say for a really long time. I know if I don't say it, I will never have the chance to anymore. Foolish girl, what death are you talking about? You're just talking about meaningless things. We are all not going to die. Galen gave a warm smile as he rose into the air and flew straight at the tsunami. Galen, Galen,